I'll let you guys weigh in first.
Walter,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to be added under department heads. I have a couple of things.
Okay.
And I was hoping to have an executive session to discuss a personnel matter at the end of the meeting. We were going to try to get to it this morning, but we didn't.
Can I? So, how do we handle that with this remote thing?
Well, we just did it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, Owen will have to do the same thing.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with that. Okay. So here are my suggestions for adjustment. First of all, put Penny, Linda, Jeff, Mo, and Bob Baines up ahead of the treasurer's report. In new business or old business, I'd like to have just a discussion about COVID precautions, anything that we need to do differently or new. And I'd like to have a discussion about on December 1st or thereabouts, having a Zoom and YouTube review. Doesn't have to be all of us, of the warrant, so we can garner some publicity on that for the special time. Yes.
Can we just take that up in the scheduled future meetings?
Oh, yeah.
And I can probably, we could have a discussion about anything COVID related under my manager's report or administrator's report.
Okay.
And then the only thing there was under old business, there's the item for planning board. I didn't know if you wanted to move that up after Mo was complete, and that would allow Mo to talk with you all about anything you need to planning board wise, and then she could depart after that.
That's fine. I must admit that I don't really have a grasp on what that item is. That's okay.
I think it would be important if perhaps Jeff could, as a member of the ordinance committee, could stay and hear that conversation as well. Perhaps. So I guess I would support moving it up, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I have adding Penny to department heads, adding an executive session after basically old business, or I mean, right before adjournment. Putting basically all guests up in the agenda prior to finance report. So it would be just following meeting minutes, and then moving item B under old business up to immediately following the code officer's department head check-in.
Okay.
Oh, and one other thing, not that it's not an agenda change, but we did not do the recommitment of tax numbers today for some reasons we'll get into later, but that item's gonna need to be tabled for tonight. But there's some other things that we can discuss when we get to that item.
Okay. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? Is there any public out there? No. First person.
There's only one person watching YouTube, which I actually think is me. I think I'm logged into it so that I can monitor it, so I'm the one person watching.
Okay. All right. So there's one outstanding minutes, which is October 27th, but I haven't found.
I can't hear you, Walter.
Oh.
No, your connection.
So my understanding is my understanding is that we need to approve the October 27th minutes, but I haven't seen them.
The 6 PM minutes, yeah, October 27th. You're part of the packet that Owen sent out.
Yeah, I only the executive, I only got the executive session from that day.
Yeah, they were attached to the email that I got from Owen, I believe.
Yeah, because we already gave corrections back to Owen on them. Walter. I think so. I think you saw.
Yeah, my understanding is that was the one you didn't move to approve because you wanted me to see it.
Well, there was so
Well,
much.
no. Go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say there was so much on it that we thought it would be best if we did it, all three of us. It should be a revision 2, dated, October 27th for the 6 PM meeting.
Yeah, I think it's more accurate. We wanted to give you an opportunity to vote on it.
Right.
But we can table it if you,
Okay, let's do that.
would you like a motion to table it? I'll table, I move that we table, hello?
Yeah, it's actually, it's an email that was sent out on the 4th of November. It actually has 8 different minutes on it, and the first one. Owen, are you able to show it?
1 second.
Well, if Walter needs some time on it, I think we should just table it.
Yep, okay.
I'll make a motion, we table it. The minutes of October 27th for the next meeting.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
I Spear.
Aye, Gaudio.
I writes. Sorry about
Walter,
that.
no, that's fine. Walter, before we leave though, you said earlier that there was only 1 minute, set of minutes on outstanding. This morning we had a discussion and Jan indicated there were several minutes dating back in the spring that need to be completed.
Okay.
I wasn't there and I won't be able to vote on those, but I do think we still need to get those done and out.
I agree.
Yeah, Owen had a list of them and we talked about it. I can go back on the calendar and look at all the days that we had select board meetings and check off the ones that we've now done. Owen, did you resend the ones that we approved this morning?
No, but they are posted to the website, but I can resend those to you all if you want.
Yeah, please.
Oh, actually, you know what? I can,
You don't have to do it now.
No, don't do it now. Let's not turn this into a 3-hour meeting.
All right. Okay. So do we have Linda?
no,
Okay. Jeff or Penny, take your choice.
Go ahead, Penny. Mine's going to be lengthy, I think.
Okay, I'm having device issues, so if I disappear, don't take it personally. Let's see. We were able to get the storm door at the library replaced. It required the replacement of the door trim, which was rotten, but the lumber and the door came to just under $300. And I would like to thank my husband, Arthur Alley, and the friend and neighbor of the library, Bob Zimmerman, for putting in about 8 hours on this project. But it is done and it looks good. And while we were doing that, there was talk about perhaps replacing the shingles on the south side of the library facing Dublin and the south side of the kitchen, which is where the kitchen door goes in, and doing that with volunteer labor. And before we went too far down that path, I thought that with the board's approval, we could have Owen talk to the insurance company about volunteer labor doing that kind of work up here.
So Penny, we're talking about right up to the top of the gable.
Yes,
So we're talking fairly high up.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
20 feet.
Yeah, I agree that I think we definitely need to check with the insurance company. I know volunteers are not going to be covered by workers' comp, so if they get hurt, they're not going to be protected. And the insurance company might have some concerns about the town's liability as well. But I think without checking with them, we can't even move forward.
Right, I was looking for the board to say, yes, let's check with the insurance company, or don't even consider it, just some direction.
Can I ask,
Go ahead, John.
when you say volunteers, are we talking about people who are skilled or semi-skilled in this craft, or are we talking about someone who hasn't climbed a ladder?
Well, I first shingled our house. Bob is a retired contractor.
Okay,
His son, stepson is a carpenter. I mean, it's people that have done this work before.
okay.
Well, I would recommend that we do talk to the insurance company then, and we move forward with in concept anyway, Penny, at this point.
Thank
Yep,
you.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'd like to revisit it once we hear from the insurance company. I guess I'm not saying if the insurance company says, okay, go ahead, that's permission.
No, that's fine. I just
Okay.
didn't.
Is this something that has a sense of urgency, given the fact that the weather's about to turn?
Well, I'm not sure if it's even feasible this year with the cost of materials and if, the weather goes, but if not this year, early spring, and I could dip shingles all winter long in my garage to get ready, we could start.
I do agree those shingles need to be replaced. I think it's throwing good money after bad to repaint them.
Yes, and the south side, John Snow had looked at these a while back and recommended that we replace them on the south sides, but that basically in the other walls, they could maybe replace one here or there, but they were still fairly good.
Something that I'm never going to support is creating a succession plan for Penny, because it's not a job that will have a possible good outcome.
Oh, I don't know. I think I've got a prospective candidate,
Oh,
and hopefully you'll meet her soon.
all right. I'll welcome that. Okay. Keep it going, Penny.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Jan.
I was just going to say, I thought we were going to leave that. We ought to formally thank Arthur and those that worked on that door. If we're not paying them for their service, we're just buying materials, and they spent 8 hours of labor. I'd like to have a letter from the select board, appreciation for their time and volunteerism.
Oh, that's okay. I'll pass it along. They'll be happy.
Well, it's nice of you to do that, but we ought to let them know that we really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Now, the heater here at the library is working great. The boiler at Guilford Butler School seems to be working great. I did turn the heat up to 45 back a week or so ago when we had those below freezing nights. And I did bring each room up to temp and before I turned it back down, and everything seems to be working well. I
Good.
talked to the crafters who wanted to hold the craft fair and told them that was not feasible. So their next proposal was, could they put up small displays at the book sale with information on how to contact them and place an order, or perhaps sell items, and I would be the one taking the money for them, and it would benefit the library in some fashion, whether a space fee or a percentage of their sales. And this is a seasonal occupation, and these crafters are quite frantic because this is their season to make their year's worth of money. And there are no craft shows in the works for this year.
Would this be, Penny, by appointment like you're doing the book sale now?
Yes, and Saturday mornings, I do open the doors 9 to 12 for those people that don't want to bother me to make an appointment. I say, okay, come in Saturday 9 to 12. It's basically by appointment though.
So none of the vendors would actually be in the building.
No, they wouldn't. And I'm talking an area, actually the cubby holes along the wall, so they're about 4 feet wide and 1.5 feet deep. And they could just put up a sample of their wares and information on how to contact the vendor.
It's a pop-up kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really,
I'm still kind of reluctant. I feel like we're promoting one private for-profit business over others. I don't know. Are these South Thomason residents?
yes, and
Yeah.
a couple of them do not have the technology to do it in any other fashion.
Do we allow ads in our town office for private? I can't recall. Out on the bulletin board for private for profit, not nonprofits, but.
We do. I mean,
Your
we,
bulletin board?
yeah, we haven't really limited folks' ability to come in and tack something up on the board.
We do it inside. I don't think outside, right?
Correct. Yep.
No, I meant inside, yeah. Well, at least we're consistent then if we did this.
And it's a COVID thing. You know, what I'm hearing is no crafts fairs this year. It's the holiday season. And to the extent that they're residents, under normal conditions, I'd be a little bit more rigid, but I'm not opposed.
I just don't know what alternatives they have. I mean, they can't go to the churches. They can't go anywhere else. None of the community centers are going to host them.
Right. Sounds like not too many of them are Etsy power users either.
No, and this is, you know, just 2 or 3 of them, and just for the next couple of months, and that would be it.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we approve under the conditions that we discussed. I'll make a motion that we approve. You said 2 or 3, should we say up to 5 or something like that to be?
Sure, that would cover it.
Up to 5 residents to display their samples of their crafts and contact information at the Guilford Butler School under any supervision.
Second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If hearing none, all in favor?
Audio aye.
Spear, aye.
Right eye.
Thank you. My last item is cemetery. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll go around and pick up the flags and in, later afternoon for the winter.
Do you need help doing that, Penny? Do you have volunteers?
You're talking about Oceanside, right? Or
Well,
Ocean-
I can do village too. It's a good opportunity for me to examine the holders and just make sure everybody's markers where it belongs. So I'm happy to do it, Jeff.
we were planning to do that on Thursday, but if you want to do it, just let us know when you're doing it, and I've got a few folks that are interested in participating, especially on the village.
Okay, well, what time Thursday had you arranged?
Well, it's my family basically, so it was pretty much any time we could do it. So if you want to do it on Thursday or Wednesday late afternoon, that's good for us. It's a short walk for us, so it's very convenient.
All right, I'll get a hold of you and accept your help
Yep.
gratefully. Thank you, and that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I also could help on Thursday. I'm not available tomorrow, but Thursday I could help if you need assist. And the flag, if you have any issue with disposing of them, I can take them all. The Legion, disposes some of them, does a flag retirement ceremony. So
Thank you.
Jeff,
Okay, I've got a couple of things from the Ordinance Review Committee, but to begin with, I just want to make sure that the assumption I'm working on is the same assumption that you have. Right now, we are targeting the next regular meeting, town meeting, and not the special town meeting that you have. Although we did discuss at our last meeting, we have two pieces, the two that I think you have in front of you tonight, that could actually, they're far enough along that they could go to the special town meeting. But right now we're working under the assumption that you would not want to add something else to that agenda. So all I'm really looking for is a head nod that we're heading in the right direction.
yeah, I don't think we do want to add it because I think we're fearful of having too many people, Jeff.
Yeah.
So I would recommend we defer it.
Okay, and then the second thing is, I do think it's important, and Owen and I have talked about this as well, that if barring having somebody from the select board on our ORC, that we do this frequently to make sure that we're not heading in a direction that you don't want us to head in, because there is a lot of work involved in the writing and the editing and all of that kind of stuff. And if we're ending up going the wrong direction, we'd like to know sooner rather than later. So I just want to put that out there just to let you know the main reason that I wanted to be on the agenda tonight. So I'll take the easy one first, and that's the road naming ordinance, which really the state of Maine now is calling it the addressing ordinance. It's pretty interesting. They have a boilerplate example out there that is, I think, 2015 circa, and it is almost identical word for word what our road naming ordinance is, and they call it the addressing ordinance. The notable exception is that our ordinance does not specify naming an addressing ordinance officer. So it says, you guys got it all. It's all on the select board. And I think that was a mistake. So I've gone through this and updated it, putting in a addressing ordinance officer to do all the things that the current ordinance says that you're supposed to do, which, oh, by the way, you haven't been doing ever since this first came out. It's always been done by the E911 coordinator, but you never designated him, you never appointed him. You never put it in here that he was responsible and had the authority to do some of the things he did. So I think it's important that you update this to make sure that that gets passed along. The other thing it does, right now you have no appeal process. There is no way for somebody to appeal because the select board is who makes the decisions. So if you make the decision, who do they appeal to? It's got to go to court. So by identifying an ordinance officer or a addressing ordinance officer, then you become the appeal process. That also takes away the problems with how do you do it? And do you send a letter to somebody saying, okay, we agree with you. You don't have to change your number. It becomes now part of the appeal. The only thing I did not do in this these recommended changes is I did not identify specifically that the select board is the appeal step, but it is implied in the language of the ordinance.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So are all these changes the ones that are in red in the document that we have?
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes.
But there was something that I expected, I thought that I didn't see. I'm sorry. Keep it go, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Okay. So the other
Yeah.
step in this, John?
I have just a quick question, a comment, just so I don't forget. I think it would be important to explicitly put in the appeal process, because I do think you want to put a time limit on it. I don't think you want someone 2.5 years later or something.
Right. Good point.
So just
Yeah.
a thought.
Yeah. And I didn't think of that side of it. I did think that maybe we wanted to be more specific on the appeal process, but that does make perfect sense. So I will make those changes. The other thing I'm wrestling with right now is Arthur is the E911 coordinator and does all of these functions right now. And I have not been able to get a hold of him. All of them, the phone numbers I've got and email addresses I've got for him are old and nothing's coming back. So Owen, if you could help me offline, see if I can get a hold of Arthur, because I do think it's important that he be coordinated on this, since the reality is he's the one that's been doing it for all these years. And I just want to make sure that I don't step too hard on his toes. Although I do want to step on his toes a little bit because, well, he wrote this ordinance back in the day. It was he who crafted it. And I think the options were in there at the time. And I think he made a conscious decision to put the responsibility on the select board as opposed to the E911 coordinator. So I want to coordinate with him, and I want to make sure that he understands the process here. It shouldn't change any of his functions, but what it does for the select board is it will require you, once this is approved, to actually appoint the addressing ordinance officer.
Yeah, my recollection is that Willard was the first addressing officer, and Willard wrote the ordinance and brought it to the board.
That may have been true, but my
My
gut
recollection.
feeling is that it wasn't, because
That
again,
doesn't matter.
yeah,
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that would make sense as well. But anyway,
That's
so I just want to make sure that I'm heading in the right direction on this. I can tell you that the ORC and myself specifically are reluctant to add any kind of words to this document about some kind of a letter that comes from the select board to absolve the select board of any kind of legality. The recommendation that came to us was that we approve some kind of a letter, and I am totally against that. I think it's bad precedence. And here's the reason. As your attorney, as MMA has told you, you are not liable if you do or you don't, or you change or you don't change. There is no liability on the town. If you then send a letter to somebody saying, okay, you can keep your old one, but understand you can't come back and sue us. You're making a statement that you're not liable. Now that sets a precedence. So now every time that you're not liable, somebody could say, you didn't say specifically you weren't liable in this case, even though you did in this one. So my recommendation is don't sign any of those letters, even though your lawyer is telling you, oh yeah, it's okay, it's not a problem. But because as soon as you make an act to specify your liability or lack of liability, then you have set a precedence. And I personally would not go in that direction. So
did Kristen advise us that in such a fashion? I don't recall.
Maine Municipal, and what I did do is I just forwarded
I
to
just saw it.
Jeff
Okay.
and the board members what I received back from Maine Municipal. I have not queried Kristen on it specifically.
Okay.
So
I'm fine with the letter thing. I mean, I never put much water in that anyway, so.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I'm okay with the letter
if someone's
too.
if someone's gonna sue, they're gonna sue. You can't sign your rights away because
That's exactly right. That's right.
Jeff, would you summarize your first recommendation though? You were talking about an appointment specifically.
Correct. Right now, the ordinance does not designate somebody, does not give anybody else the responsibility or the authority
Right.
to name roads or to list numbers or come up with the addresses. So my recommendation is that with these changes, you then, once you get this, and actually you could do it now. You could appoint somebody without this document in place, but this document, it gives them the authority and the responsibility for doing those functions in your stead.
I recall that we have appointed an addressing officer over the years, maybe not recently, but.
Yeah, I went back to see if any of my minutes that we ever appointed an E911 coordinator, which is, we never had an addressing officer.
Well, I'm using those terms interchangeably.
Correct. Yeah. But
That isn't what Arthur is today.
I could not find an E911 coordinator being appointed.
Well, Owen could check the appointment book in the town office. That's, you know, the
Yeah, I
easiest.
thought that was Arthur's appointment currently. Arthur Gerson.
Arthur is the one that's been doing it for 20 years.
But I mean, I think that's somebody that we reappoint each year when we do the appointments.
Yes, so I don't know when that practice started, but what we've been doing is grabbing the same appointments and kind of redoing them. Arthur being one of them. The only thing I can say on it is that's what I inherited. I cannot tell you when the town started doing that as a practice or what they referenced or any of the authority of it. It makes all the sense in the world to have an addressing officer. So I don't think anything that the board has done is wrong. But like Jeff's saying, if anyone was to challenge that addressing officer, there is no ordinance that says they have the power and authority to do what they're doing. It's just because you get this official communication from the addressing officer you all have appointed. But if people probe deeper, there's nothing that says that the town has approved that says he is allowed to do what he's doing.
And there's one other reason that this is important. I do know that Arthur and the Postal Service communicate routinely on addresses. They will not list somebody's address, especially a new one, or make a change unless the E911, unless Arthur specifically approves it. This document also recommends, and in fact, it had it in there before, but only by the select board, that there's communication and coordination between the the CEO and the ordinance or the addressing ordinance officer and the planning board when they do a subdivision. As near as I can tell, that process, those steps have been happen chance. There is no, the CEO is not holding back permits to get a coordination from the E911 coordinator. The planning board has been doing subdivisions without coordinating with Arthur to ensure that the names of the roads and the addresses have been cleared through them. They have traditionally assumed that the individual who's submitting it has done those steps with the E911 coordinator. So part of what I'm trying to do now is coordinate with the CEO and the planning board, as well as Arthur, to make sure that there is a process that exists when those items happen in accordance with the document.
So where do we have SOPs or process documents that cover these kinds of cross-departmental teamwork kinds of things, or do we? Or is this a?
I don't think we do unless it's
I don't
something.
think so either.
Yeah. But I think this points up why it's important. We talked about it for years of getting all our ordinances in one book with a certain scheme of, with a table of contents in it.
Oh, and you had your hand up.
Just one thing I wanted to say, just to underscore to those probably listening as well, is, you know, what I'm kind of hearing is this is similar to the town's practice where we were expending funds between January 1st and town meeting. Nothing's really wrong with what we've done. The process is okay. We just never had that kind of belt and suspenders approval from the citizenry codifying that this practice, which is normal and completely acceptable, has just been approved by the town. So some of the other things, though, the cross coordination, those would be, I think, more policy type things. You could put them in the ordinance, but if something was to change, then you got to go back out to the citizens to alter that. So, I mean, I would maybe, you know, offer any thoughts, suggestions you have on altering the language, maybe spend a little more time with the language if you want to, figure out when you want to propose it to the citizenry, and then at an appropriate time, start working on an internal policy that the select board can change as needed that speaks to coordination between departments.
Yeah, I think those are two separate events or activities.
Yep.
We did appoint
But one
Arthur.
builds on the other.
We did appoint Arthur as E91 coordinator on July 7th, 2020.
Right. So I guess
So-
what I'm hearing is that we appointed him, but we didn't give him any authority.
I was just, you just,
That's right.
congratulations.
The past use didn't give him any authority. And I think once something becomes a customary practice, people just assume this is what we do.
So we need to go back and clean it up.
Yeah, it's okay. I think you're going in the right direction, Jeff.
Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I will add a paragraph in there about the appeals process, putting the select board specifically in the appeal process.
Well, I also think that's good for the user too, because they know where they
Yes.
go.
Jeff,
Okay,
did we
so
actually- speaking of
shifting
housekeeping,
gears.
Did we actually ever give you a signed ad hoc ordinance review committee policy? I know we talked about it previously, but according to my notes, it's another one of those things that's pending.
Well, I think you did give us a signed policy for the ordinance review committee, and then you modified
And
it
then we modified it, yeah.
at a select board meeting. So I'm comfortable currently with our authority.
Okay, so you've got a signed document. Because I don't. If you do, send it to me, will you?
Okay. Yeah, it is the one though that says the only thing we're going to look at is existing ordinances. So
Yeah,
I
I
came
have-
back to you and said, broaden that a little bit.
I have that pen and ink change on mine. I just don't have a final copy.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw a final copy on it either, but the select board minutes I'm comfortable with that as the authority, so.
No, and that amending of that language falls on me. I mean, we did the whole setup of ORC and all that language, and that was fine. And then probably where I dropped the ball was amending and not getting that amended document signed for a second time.
Yeah, because there is a place where we amended it on the 11th of August, 2020. And then this would be another amendment. So it'd be like the third amendment after it was adopted in December 2019.
First amendment was about paid employees so that Ralph could be on there. And the second was to expand their authority.
Yep.
Or
And then there's
charter.
a place for the three of us to have signed it. So
Jeff, should we put a help wanted ad out for another member?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're going along now pretty smoothly, but to tell you the truth, my personal opinion is you're going to want an ordinance review committee forever, and a lot of towns have them. It's a standing committee, and anytime somebody proposes an ordinance or anything like that, it gets coordinated through the ORC. And I think 5 is the right number of people. And right now we've got 4 people that are really hardworking and committed. So as much as I'm reluctant to change the dynamics of that, I do think a 5th person is warranted. And I tell you, I do not have a problem with a select board member being on there. I think that would be natural. Unlike the planning board, I don't think you should ever be on the planning board, but I do think that it would be natural for you to be on the ORC. But it's not a requirement. So, but yeah, if you can get somebody, that would be great.
Would you follow up on that, Cohen?
I'm working on it as we speak.
Okie dokie.
Okay, so I'll get first, before I go into the second one that we've got some red lines on that I think is pretty close to being ready to put out. I do want to talk a little bit about what it is we're working on right now. Our first step is to try to get our land use ordinance as tight as we possibly can. There are a lot of room for corrections and edits and fixes, and I think we're honing in on those. Our second step is we want to get the land use ordinance for everywhere but the shoreland, and then the shoreland zoning ordinance for the shoreland, so that you don't have to, depending on where you live, use both documents. Right now, if you're in the shoreland, you have to go to both documents. You have to go to the land use ordinance for those things that are in there. You have to go to the shoreland zone ordinance for everything in there. And so our next step is to take and merge things from the land use ordinance into the shoreland zone, so that somebody in the shoreland zone just uses the shoreland zoning ordinance. And that's why some of the things we're doing in the land use ordinance are taking a little more time, because we want to make them fit for the transition to that. So now and then the third thing we're working on is, although that's not going as fast as the other two, is very specifically on solar projects. And we still haven't decided whether we want to put it in the existing ordinances or if we want to do a standalone ordinance for that. We do think we need something, because right now it's ignored completely, which is okay, because you just treat it as an enterprise and it gets taken care of, but it doesn't get to the specifics that you should get to for that type of a project. And there are organizations out there that will find those holes in existing ordinances and try to leap through them. So I think the sooner we get that nailed down, the better off we will be as a town.
I agree. Have you gotten to the point where you've gathered up some models from people that have gone down this path before.
Yes, we and there's the gambit is out there. I mean, there are some towns that have 3 separate ordinances depending on what type and size for solar farms. There are others that incorporate it into their land use ordinance, but so there, and we have not decided which way we think we should be going. That's the one portion of it that we haven't stepped forward on yet. We're still working on it. But yes, we've gathered the data. So now on our land use ordinance, our first attempt with the land use ordinance is to take the comprehensive plan where it made recommendations for the land use ordinance, including changing zones and what was allowed where and what the process was, and creating a, what do they call it? An extension district. And so the red lines you've got right now is our effort to take the comprehensive plan and its recommendations on land use and put them into our land use ordinance. And for the most part, they're pretty straightforward. And I think that hardly any of them are very controversial. Although when you actually go through the process, this extension area becomes an area where we encourage, according to the comprehensive plan, encourage multiple dwelling buildings, smaller lots, half an acre size, things like mobile home parks. So there's a few other things that fit into that extension area that we have not broached a lot in our town in the past. The other thing we did, and this is part of the process of trying to be able to meld the land use and the shoreland use, we keep calling what the planning board does for a use a special exception. Okay, it's really not a special exception. It is an authorized use that the planning board provides conditions on. So it's a conditional use.
Sounds like your lawyer brought that up.
Yeah. So we have taken special exemption out of it. And the other reason is, if you go to the shoreland zone, there's very specific language for special exceptions, and it is not this. It's not what we do in the land use ordinance. So if you try to meld them and you try to bring over special exemptions, it becomes complicated and confusing. So we just did away with special exemptions. We also used in the shoreland zone, in the table of uses where it says what it is, we've used for, if it's the CEO, you get a permit. So it's a PB, I think, or BP or something is what we used to use. And if it went to the planning board, we called it a special exemption SE. You go to the land use or the shoreland zone, and it's CEO, planning board. Pretty clear who makes the decision on those and what they're talking about. So we have now adopted that in the land use ordinance as well. So most of that is pretty clear, and pretty easy to follow through. When we go into the districts, I think it's on page 10 under districts, it talks about what the districts' purposes are and what things can be allowed in there. And that we literally took what was in the comprehensive plan and moved it into this document. And so we adjusted the table to match the comprehensive plan. We did, because the comprehensive plan talks about allowing commercial entities that are greater than 10,000 feet only in R1 and not in R2, and R2 is only for smaller. We separated those. So we went commercial with 10,000, over 10,000, commercial with less than 10,000. We also identified and defined mobile home parks because our land use ordinance did not even talk about it. What it said, it did talk about it. What it said is you will comply with the shoreland zone ordinance. So even in the land use non-shoreland zone areas, you had to do exactly what the shoreland zone. There's two things to remember about the shoreland zone. One is DEP controls it, so you cannot be less restrictive in the shoreland zone. By saying everywhere in town has to comply with the shoreland zone for mobile homes as well as for individual camping areas, we are taking the most restrictive and applying it across the town. So this, because again, we want them to be two separate documents, we don't want to refer from one to the other. We took the language that was in the shoreland zone and we put it for camping areas and for campsites and put it in the land use ordinance. When you do that, it jumps out at you that there are some very restrictive processes for campsites, not campgrounds. That those become pretty clear and it's pretty obvious on campgrounds and makes sense. But on campsites, the definitions and what you have to do if you're going to be there for X number of days. So right now I have a motorhome and I have it parked in the back of my house. Right now, I cannot put pavement underneath it. I can't put concrete or pavement underneath it. I can put gravel, but not concrete or pavement. I also, if I'm going to, and it's really gray in the shoreland zone, if you read it one way, if you're going to live in that RV for more than X number of days, then you have to go to the plumbing inspector and get approved how you're going to dispose of your waste. And if you're going to have it done by some off-site place, then you got to get a letter from them saying that they're going to take care of it. That's very appropriate in the shoreline zone because again, we're trying to keep the shoreline pristine and within that area, we're close to the water. In the rest of the town, I'm not sure that is necessary, but our current rules are that it is, even though I guarantee you nobody's abiding by it. I guarantee you the CEO does not know what to do with this because we know that there are currently people who are living in campers that are going through this process and there's no teeth in our land use ordinance, even though technically you could refer to the shoreland zone as a requirement. So putting it in our land use ordinance makes it very clear. And this is where, and this is a pretty easy thing to move it over. The problem is that we need to make a conscious decision. And this is again, where I'm coming to the select board. Are we moving in the right direction? Do we want to be as restrictive in the non-shoreland zones on campsites as we are in the shoreland zone? Or do we want to soften that and decrease it? But for the most part, the rest of the changes are right out of the comp plan and have minimal impact on the folks in the town, to be frank, other than changing the zones. That one's going to be a significant emotional event, even though it shouldn't be, because the rule is already there. Because the land use ordinance says refer to the shoreland zone. And the shoreland zone is very specific.
It'd be interesting if we have a conservation commission by the time this all comes to pass, what they might say about that.
Yeah, I would think that they would want us to be as conservative in the non-shoreland zone areas as we are in shoreland zone. But again, the town is who ends up having to vote on it, and putting something out there that the town is not going to support could, all the rest of it could be great, but that one little part takes a step further than they want, and you end up losing the benefit of all the changes. So,
Owen?
And you can't amend an ordinance at town meeting either.
Right.
correct.
Right.
So it's all or not.
Yeah.
All I was going to say was that, to the best of my knowledge, both Conservation Commission and this ordinance would be posed to the town at the same time. So we wouldn't, under how I think we would be heading, we wouldn't have the opportunity to get them to weigh in prior to this ordinance change being put to the town.
Jeff, could I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
What is the rationale, I assume there is one, for allowing mobile home parks in the village extension, but not in R1s and R2s?
Yeah, currently we don't specify mobile homes anywhere. If you go to the comp plan, it specifically says that the extension, the things you would be doing in the extension area is half-acre lots, mobile home parks, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really the only reason we put it in there. And if you go back to the basic tenets of land use, if you haven't provided a place for it somewhere in your ordinance, even if it's this little corner over here, right there,
Yeah, I understand that.
yeah, you open yourself up to somebody challenging. So it's always better to allow it somewhere as opposed to not allow it anywhere. Very few exceptions for that.
And then I have a similar question on the commercial greater than 10,000 feet. Oh, by the way, what happens if it's exactly 10,000 square feet?
Yeah. As I was writing that, I was thinking the exact same thing. And again,
what is
directly out of
the rationale? What's the rationale for allowing commercial greater than 10,000 in R1, but not in R2? That sort of strikes me as in reverse.
Now, R1 is our just about anything goes area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so R2 is usually more restrictive.
Okay.
And has traditionally been that way.
Yeah,
But again, the distinguishing between the two came right out of the comp plan. The comp plan indicated that their recommendation was that we treat big boxes over 10,000 square feet differently somehow than we do less than 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, I had my zones mixed up. Sorry.
Yep. So we have got, since we're not going to do this till June, we do have time. I'm assuming June. I'm assuming, I'm jumping ahead, that we're not going to have our regular town meeting at the regular time. There is time to deliberate specifically on the campgrounds. And really, that's about the only controversial issue in here. And it really isn't that controversial when you think about it. It's already very restrictive. We just aren't enforcing it, and it's not right in your face.
So to the campground violators, we would say, hey, good news. We're going to relieve you of some of the restrictions that you're not living up to now, rather than cite you for them.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
This is impressive, tough work, I think, because you guys are obviously, every word has a meaning, and every word is important, and yeah, very.
Yeah, I agree. And it's easy to get yourself tripped up. You change one thing and it
You are exactly right.
it cascades into another paragraph.
So again, right now, my plan is to take both documents to the planning board and to get coordination from the planning board, the CEO and the E911 coordinator for the other one. And if you guys could think about it over the next month or so about how restrictive you as a board are willing to support. We've got it right now as restrictive as it currently is. So we did not make it more restrictive or less restrictive. Even though there was some feeling from the board members that we don't have to be as restrictive on campsites as shoreland zone is.
Owen?
Just a quick suggestion or something for the board to think about, and building on what Jeff said about them doing their work in the wishes and desires of the board. I don't know if at some point in the future you want to set up a meeting with them so that, you know, it's not just Jeff taking intent or them trying to, you know, watch this YouTube video to infer intent, but giving them any additional guidance on things. I mean, just using solar as an example, if there are other items that are not spoken to in our ordinances, but we feel that they might be coming down the pike or it would behoove the town, but it would be something new, speculating, and Jeff, please correct anything wrong that I say, they're not necessarily going to work on those items until they hear from the board. We want to see this in our final draft. And so if there are some of those items or things that they're seeing, and just, you know, good communication between ORC, because of the expertise we have, because of the hard work that they're putting in, would just hate to see an opportunity missed to address some other items that you all might want to see posed to the town, just because, you know, the left hand wasn't talking to the right.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that since we do have an opportunity now with the idea that the town meeting is going to be in June, we have time to get this right, and we are not as rushed as we originally were. So if there are things that and I can tell you that we have looked at almost everything you could possibly think of, and either said don't need to do it now, or we need to work on that right away, or no, that's something to ignore completely. But that does not mean we got it all. So if there's something out there, I mean, one of the things that we're in the back of our mind thinking once we do the solar panels is regular towers. That runs into some other issues, and there's a lot of other regulations that are above our pay grade that control towers, but towns that don't have an ordinance that specify towers find themselves with towers that they don't want, just like Rockland. Rockland's going to end up having to eat that tower. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and it's because they were not prepared to deal with the people who wanted to build a tower. And there may be other things that are out there. I can tell you one that we don't have to worry about right now, but in the very near future, we're going to have to worry about, and that is recreational marijuana. We kicked the can a few years ago. We said, we're not going to allow it, but that was really just to give us time to evaluate it, for the state to get it right, for the feds and the state to get together. At some point, we are probably going to have to readdress the medical marijuana. I mean, the recreational marijuana. But having said that, there may be other things out there that I'm not aware of, or that in my mind isn't all that important, or in the ORC's mind. So if you've got anything out there, make sure that you let us know, because now is a good opportunity to get it into the land use ordinance.
Owen?
Jeff, are there any items that you all are proposing that would have a budgetary impact? I'm thinking specifically to things like site plan review or any additional inspections spoken to that would take more CEO time or is everything that you all are proposing would be budget neutral?
Yeah, right now it's looking budget neutral because even though I personally think site plan review is something the town needs to crack at some point, I'm not, the rest of the committee is not necessarily behind attacking that right now. So, and that may very well have some budgetary impacts, but everything else that we're doing so far has no, I say no. In almost all cases, it's going to require, like we talked about earlier, more communication and coordination between the different offices in the town. But as far as the impact on the budget, I don't see anything from what we're doing right now.
And I brought that up primarily just to give the board an opportunity to, one, start chewing on that concept, and two, for them to maybe not now, but in the future, give guidance on, hey, we, the board, recognize that this would be an important thing for the town, and we fully intend to increase X budget line by Y amount of dollars. And then, that gets that intent to you and your group to write language that reflects that. But so that was primarily for the board, for them to think about the additional guidance to you and your group.
Lose Walter?
I think we lost it for a moment.
Sorry, just had a quick consult with the owner of this property. Are we ready to move on? Thank you, Jeff.
Roughly speaking, do you all want Jeff and I to be working to schedule anything with you all in relation to any of this conversation, or just to hold and wait for future guidance?
Well, I think the committee can make the call when they want to come see us, and I'd like to have that happen every once in a while, for sure. This is, among other things, this is very educational for me.
When you've got smooth documents, ready for us to look at, with your changes, I'd like to have them, whether it's a face-to-face meeting or you just send them to us. Because, certainly the land use, a lot of these are going to be some time to digest and work through.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Sure. Thank you, guys.
Mo. Hey,
Hi guys,
how are you?
good.
Okay. So this is the request for workplace accommodation. Is that, or do you have other business as well that you want to discuss? Let's dispense with that first. I think we all have it. Are there questions? I'm not muted, am I? Go ahead, Jan.
No, I'm taking a look at it right now. That's all. I have looked at it again, or before, but I'm going to look at it again.
Well, I have two comments. One is I think we should attach reference in the attachment of the doctor's note. That would be one thing. And the second thing is this kind of leaves it open-ended. There's no end date or no revisit date or anything like that. And that gives me a little bit cause for pause. I would I would suggest that, you know, we perhaps look at this every 6 months or something like that, or I just pick that out of the air, but,
Would you like to revisit in 3 months?
I was just
Well,
gonna
I
say,
don't know.
3,
And 90
I-
days,
I- pardon?
I think every 90 days would be about right.
Yeah, I mean, I just,
at least,
I mean,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead, John.
I just say the way it's written now, it's forever. So,
Right.
Yeah, I think 90 days, and the first 90 days will be important because it'll be the check-in to see how it's going. But you know, if things are going off the rails, Mel, let us know,
Yep, of course.
you know.
Yeah.
You know, and
But,
you're going to help us if you get, you know, complaints from the community at the town office.
So far,
Yeah.
everything's been going pretty smooth with doing it over the phone and coordinating with the office staff. We're getting a system going, and I was able to get caught up on quite a bit of the physical paperwork the other day. Got all the monthly reports for the state as well completed. So it seems to be going pretty well. And I haven't had any trouble as of yet. I was able to do a plumbing inspection this morning, and everyone, you know, left the site. It went really smooth, and it seems to be no bumps yet. I'm sure there will be some, but nothing as of yet.
well, I'll be honest with you, I never thought the idea of forcing the CEO to sit in there for 8 hours on Wednesday was a great use of time anyways, personally. I like the idea that people can access you at different times because not everybody's world revolves around Wednesday, you know what I mean? So,
Exactly. And I've always answered my phone regardless of the day. Because like you said, not everybody has that single day. So
so with those two suggestions that I make, I'm okay with this. Is that something, I'd be happy to rewrite that if you could send that to me electronically or something.
yeah, let me work on that this evening, updating it for the 90-day check-in.
No, I meant I would do that, but no, if you want to do it, go ahead.
Either way, whatever's easiest.
Well, it's easiest for me if you do it.
Okay.
Because eventually, Mo, we want to add the doctors to it, and you want to sign it. So at some point, we want an original.
Yeah, and I think we should sign it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there should be a signature for the three of us on the bottom or something, I guess would be the other suggestion.
Yeah, approved, disapprove block.
Yeah,
I can get working on that.
and hopefully we can take care of it at the next meeting.
Sounds good to me.
Well, Owen?
Yeah, just don't work on it. I pulled up the document while you all were talking, and other than getting the signature lines on there, I'll have it worked. I just don't have the doctor's note. So what I'll do is once
I can send that over.
what I'll do, I'll just send this to you and the board for language review, and then you can attach that document and we'll go from there. But I added the language. I had language saying, I would further commit to checking in with the board on this accommodation on a rolling 3-month basis, starting from November 11th, 2020 to renew this accommodation. The doctor's note is attached. Yep. So I'll get it 95% there, and then you all can fiddle with it after that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then there's a loop closer there, which is let the public know what the deal is.
I've already modified things on the website based on what you all were supporting, just you hadn't finalized. So what it says now under CEOs, it says by appointment only. It has Mo's cell phone number plus email, and then that's also been changed on the code officer page as well.
Perfect.
And the staff in the office are now aware of it too, so.
Yep.
Okie dokie. Thanks, Mo. Anything from the CEO side of things that you want to let us know about? Or?
I've had a couple complaints here and there. Everything's been pretty much followed up on and either ended with ease, or there was a complaint of a building being like a structure being built, but they already had a permit. It had been completed in 2018. So that was followed up on today. I had mailed out the letter and because I couldn't get a hold of anybody via phone. So that's been clarified. I'm trying to think of what else I had on my report. That was pretty much the big thing. I haven't had any. I followed up with Pleasant Street, our Pleasant Beach rather, our general person that we follow up on, and they hired a house cleaner, so the living conditions there are now satisfactory condition. So that if he continues to try to lease the property out, because we got that complaint in regards to unsafe living conditions. So as a local health officer, I went in with a sheriff escort to do an inspection, which he received a letter because we were trying to do the steps in case it had to go to court. And he ended up, it's all been rectified as of now.
Wow.
So we'll continue to monitor that.
So you're both good and lucky, it sounds like, because that's a tough nut to crack down there.
Yes. Yeah. So as of now, we're good, but there's also been a stop work order placed on the construction he had down there, simply because the septic hasn't been started, and the contractor also has ended their agreement with him. So everything is at a standstill with that structure being built. And simply like the wastewater needs to go somewhere in order to meet the ordinances. So until he starts working on that and finds somebody to do such work, he's not going to continue on the structure.
All righty. Anything else you need from us?
Nope, that's pretty much an update as of now.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can hang around or you can go be mom.
No, I would.
Is the planning board still meeting Thursday?
They sure are. And I did send you the Zoom details. Did you receive it?
Probably.
I'm going to resend it as
No,
well.
no, that's all right.
Tomorrow
I'm sure I have.
to everybody. Just so that everyone can attend, whoever wants to watch. But our first thing is to get, a chair.
Yeah, you sent it to us on the 6th of November, Mo.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I remember getting it. I just didn't know if it had been last time you had to cancel at the last minute.
No, we're definitely going to meet quorum.
Well, Ryan and Hendrix are really doing a deep dive on that place.
Yes.
Darn
Yeah, they're going pretty in depth on something that we haven't quite even gotten an application for yet, but that's all right. It's good to point them in the right direction of what the next steps are so they can either get their project going and truly submit it, or if there's going to be any, stops in it, to know what to do to try to move forward, or if it's a project that isn't going to ever, potentially meet our ordinances and whatnot, then to just let them know that it's not going to.
Jeff,
One
question?
One comment on that. So far it's only been one board member and the applicant, but if another board member jumps into that discussion, that's going to violate the open meeting law.
Okay. No, it's more of clarification in regards to.
Well, I know, but you can't discuss, business like that. One person can with the applicant, but if there's a second board member jumps in, I'd be careful there. Just not you, but.
Jeff?
And Mo, could you send me an invite for that Zoom meeting as well?
Of course. Yep.
Thanks.
Owen, did you have your hand up?
All I was going to say is that it's a 5-member board, so none of it is okay because it's planning, but it's not a 3-member board.
That doesn't matter though.
I know, that's why I was saying it doesn't. I was kind of
right.
correcting myself.
Okay, thank you, Mo.
No worries.
All right, next item is to, for some period of time, fully populate the budget committee.
You know, Walter, real quick, while we've got Mo here, do you want to talk about those COVID precautions?
Oh,
And planning board and
I know we
anything.
put that
planning
under
board related.
somewhere under new or old business. but-
right.
Yeah, talk about planning board too, while Mo was here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wrote this down to see if there's anything that we should be doing different or new. Um, Certainly, I'm on record as being COVID overcautious, and I'm going to be remote except for the special town meeting for the duration. And we noticed that Thomaston has gone to only remote select board meetings. I don't know about their other meetings. Are there things that you know about, Mo, that we should be doing or that you recommend as health officer?
I just recommend that we come up with a strategic protocol with the how our residents are interacting when they come into the town office. I know we have it, that one party at a time, but we really need to have a protocol to clean in between each person coming up on those surfaces that are being touched and where droplets are being, even though they wear a mask, any space that's being touched should be cleaned in between. So I think we should have an actual protocol for office staff to be able to follow.
We generally do. We keep
I know
it.
you guys are doing it. It's like a checklist, just so
Yeah.
it's there.
So we've had, I've written up general, like when we did our reopening plan,
Yep.
whether or not it follows like an actual protocol or approved by the board. But what we do have is, hand sanitizer there, different hand sanitizer stations, the mask requirement, the one party at a time, and then the attendant has a box or whatever of the Clorox wipes, and so the surface with the customer is wiped down after each customer.
Yeah, and all I was thinking is that we need to have like an actual protocol approved by the board, just so that we, cross our T's, dot our I's. Because I know it's being done.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. We do not have that document signed by the board, but we're doing it in practice.
So let's rectify that piece.
Do you all mind if I start with the reopening plan as the basic
Yep.
document?
Yep. You don't have to do that work right now while we wait. Okay, so the planning board review of related documents. Owen, I'm going to please drive this because I don't have a grasp of what's being asked or what the assignment is.
Yep, the assignment was just basically we do have a pretty young board, planning board as far as experience, and building on last meeting where I had pulled a bunch of information just to try to assist the planning board in election of officers and all that stuff. It was some of the big gaps in documentation about how we went from the 1973 organizational documents, and there's the 80s bylaws, and the organizational stuff was amended in the 90s, and the bylaws again, but then there's this big gap and then a jump to 2016. And when you look at the current planning board bylaws, they're just, from my perception anyway, there could be some areas for improvement. Maybe clarification would be a better term to use. And while planning board gets their feet under them with the new board, it was just an opportunity. If there were any items that you all saw in the old documents that you wanted to encourage planning board to consider putting into their bylaws, you all, I think this is how it works in this town, but other towns that I've had experience with, the individual committee or board themselves works up their bylaws. They approve those bylaws, but just like hiring decisions, it then gets passed on to the select board for final approval. Typically, the select board will approve those things. I haven't found that the select board has signed the 2016 bylaw changes. Not saying that they haven't, but I just wanted to give an opportunity where we have Jeff Northgraves and the code officer here. If you had any thoughts on information you want to get across to the planning board, or best practices, or we'd like to see a liaison from the select board. We'd like to see better clarification on your officers. We'd like to see better clarification on X, Y, and Z. It was just an opportunity. Jeff has a lot of historical knowledge. Mo has a lot of understanding of the code and the ordinances. So it was a good opportunity to spitball some things out and see if there was anything that rose to the top that you want to communicate to planning board.
Well, I was the one who asked for, to table this at the last meeting so we could think about it a little, and I have thought about it. Number one, the 2 town meeting votes, even though they're not ordinances, I think the one that created the planning board, and then the other one, was it in the in the 90s, it amended it?
Yeah.
89.
Yeah, 89, sorry. Those are, those are town meeting votes, and they are what they are. And I don't think we as a board or the planning board can change those. It seems to me if there are changes required in those, they would need to go back to town meeting. In terms of the bylaws, I know that it doesn't say that the new bylaws don't say that they supersede the old bylaws, but I think one can infer by reference that they do, personally, although it would be nice if they said that, but and then I did look at the new bylaws, and I agree. I think that they could use a little clarification. I don't have I was looking for the document. I marked it up and I can't find it right at the moment, but I do think they could use some clarification, but I also hate to kind of dump that on a brand new planning board. So I'm just wondering if we should, let them get a little, let the planning board get a little bit on its feet here before we ask them to take a look at them. And plus I'm glad, the reason I wanted Jeff to say they were just amended, was it 2 years ago?
I thought it was 2016.
2016, I thought.
Four years. Yeah, not that long ago.
It's not that old. Yep.
Right. So I'm wondering if Jeff has any recollection of what that was all about, or
Yeah, it was strictly to,
sorry, I gotta let my dog out.
yeah. Yeah, that change was strictly to correct a quorum problem that we had with the existing bylaws. The number of board members and what constituted a quorum. Somehow it counted alternates, and the bottom line was it was almost impossible for us to have a quorum meeting unless everybody was there. So the whole purpose of that revision was to correct an error in the calculations of the quorum. Basically, that, as I recall, I haven't looked at it in a long time, but that's how I remember that whole process. And I am confident that it went to the select board. I'm 99% sure that it did go to the select board, but I'm also about 50% sure that they looked at it and said, it's a bylaw that's internal to the planning board. We don't need to act on it. I don't know the answer to that part of the question. But I do know that it did go to the select board. I can tell you that there are some significant issues with the previous documents that were approved by the town. I mean, one of them even says that one of the planning board members will be a select board member. And that is one of the few conflicts of interest offices that's spelled out in statute. You cannot be a select board member and be on the planning board. So there are fatal flaws in our existing documents from the towns. So my recommendation is that we just start from scratch and get it approved at a town meeting and move on from there.
Well, I agree with you that problems with those, but my point is the planning board can't fix those problems.
I agree.
And the other thing is, you don't want to lose track of the date of when the planning board was created. We don't want to recreate it because in state statute also, when your planning board was created has some impacts on what statutes it's governed under. I can't quote you what it is, but but I do think that perhaps that was something that the ordinance committee could work on.
I don't know how in my mind, I thought that's where we were going with this. So it doesn't surprise me.
Not the bylaws, not the bylaws.
Yeah.
The bylaws is, I think that's something Mo could work on.
Yeah, and I think just to clarify, I think, the 1973 document that was amended in March of 1990 is really the ordinance that established the planning board, and then that ordinance was modified in 1990.
Right.
The other two documents, the 89 document and the 2016 document, are both bylaws.
Right.
Yeah, I was just looking, Jeff, at the ordinance where it talks about a select board member, and I couldn't find it. So
I thought I recalled it, but it might have been.
That was at the very end of the first town meeting ordinance, I thought.
I recalled seeing it too, unless it was in the first bylaws.
yeah, I'm gonna say I read it, but I don't see it in the ordinance, I guess is my point.
I can't find my folder on that.
Yes, you're right. You're right. It's in paragraph 2E. At least one selectman must serve as a member of the board.
In the
It's
ordinance.
a 1973 establishment ordinance.
Yeah.
And has not been amended according to my document.
Well, the state statute prohibiting that may have been subsequent to that date.
Right. It may have come out after
It
73.
would have made that invalid because state law would supersede, but it still probably cleaned up.
So that's probably where the ordinance needs to be amended again and then go to town meeting for approval.
Well, doesn't
I
it
would
also,
agree- I
doesn't
would
it
agree with
also,
your comments on the bylaws, that the bylaws, once the planning board gets their feet on the ground, they could look at the 16 version, the July 2016 version, and see if it needs any tweaking.
doesn't the ordinance also say the terms will be for 5 years?
No, it was 1 year.
No, I thought it was 5.
No, it was 1.
It's 5.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there it was 1 year.
So
Well, whatever.
the ordinance says in paragraph 2C, the term of each member shall be 5 years, except the initial appointments, which shall be for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years respectively. The term of the office of an associate member shall be 5 years.
So I think we should clean that up.
Yeah. So I think the ordinance clearly could be tweaked a little bit.
But I think it should be, personally, I think it should be crafted as an amendment to the 1975. I know it doesn't call it an ordinance, but town meeting vote or something to that effect. But
Well, it actually does. It's kind of funny that the front just talks about the establishment of municipal planning board as voted on by townspeople in 1973, and on the back, it calls it planning board ordinance. So,
good.
but you're right. I would
That's even-
agree with you, John, that it should be an amendment to the 73 document.
So that would be my recommendation is we refer the ordinance, for lack of a better word, to the ordinance review committee. A matter of fact, I'll make that a motion.
And the bylaws to Mo to lead with the planning board.
Yeah, at the appropriate time.
Yeah, but I don't want to overwhelm them.
Yeah, I agree. And we need to do a recruitment effort too.
So I made a motion.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yes.
I'll second the motion. I think it does need to go to the ORC.
All right. For Owen's benefit, would you restate the motion, John?
I move that we refer the planning board ordinance and its subsequent amendment to the ordinance review committee for possible revisions, updating and revisions. Proposed, obviously.
How about a second?
Yep, my second still stands.
All right. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we give Jeff more work to do. All in favor, say aye in your name.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, rights.
And Owen, if you've got that electronically, the original ordinance and the amendment, could you send it my way?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's what I was afraid of, because as I recall this process a few years ago, all we had was one person had a copy, a mimeographed, I think, copy of that ordinance, and that was all we had to go by. So
If you, if Mo, Jeff, and the board check their email right now, I forwarded what I have, their PDFs that are
that
scanned.
works. Yeah.
Yeah, so they should be in your inbox right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good news is, Jeff, they're not very long.
Right.
True.
It's only 2 pages, but we might be able to, there's a software that'll change your PDF to a Word document. You copy and paste it into Word. And I think then you can manipulate it. But
Yeah, I've
anyway.
got about half a dozen computers. At least one of them's got to be able to do that.
Owen?
The only thing that I would say is any potential changes to the ordinance, rectify or clean up any of this stuff wouldn't be done until approximately June of next year. And so if the current bylaws stay as is, then there's discrepancies between the ordinance and the bylaws, and we have between now and June of next year where that will be a known existing problem. Only if challenged. It's just
And
something.
we're taking steps to correct it.
Yep. I really only brought that up because if there was like some sort of short-term task, it would, I would only just throw out there for planning or whoever else to look at the documents and simply maybe try to bring up the bylaws to be as in alignment with the ordinance as possible for that interim time period. But that's just a suggestion. I mean, nothing's broken here that we're trying to fix. It's just with the delicate nature of what planning does, it would just be a shame to leave us open for challenges of discrepancies between now and when we can pose it to the town.
All right. Do we have a period on this discussion?
I'm good.
Okay. Budget committee.
I resent out the Zoom invite to Linda. I mean, she did participate in that joint budget committee, so I know she has the technology and had done it before. I sent her 2 different emails on this.
How about Bob?
Bob got back to me today when I resent, and because I had sent it to him before, but people were asking for it, so I resent it. He said that he was at a meeting of the co-op. I do intend to participate on the budget committee though, assuming I am confirmed, but he just had a conflict tonight.
All right. Bob has thrown his hat in the ring or volunteered to join the budget committee. He spent time with Moira and time with me. I think everybody knows who he is. Is that true?
I know.
Is there a motion to appoint?
I move we appoint Robert Baines to the Budget Committee for a term ending. I need some help, Owen. You have your little cheat sheet there. This is replacing Cliff?
Yeah.
It's in the town meeting then.
Oh, no, it's replacing, Linda replaced Cliff. This is the add-on.
So this would be the 9th member.
Yeah, in theory, this should be a 3-year term.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
are you looking? Are you
Do
looking?
you
at
have your little
something?
cheat sheet there, Owen?
I'm looking at it. We currently have this vacant one. Well, I've got Sandra Wallace, Kate Green, Moira Paddock, Jeff Northgrave, Linda, Camille, Terry Baines, and Beverly. So the vacant position, which is at the top, we would appoint in 2020, and would just be for 1 year. The point expiring 2021. That would give us 3 in 2021, 3 in 2022, and 3 in 2023 expiring.
So my motion would then read for a term ending 2021.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I think if this is approved, I think we should let Bob know why he's only appointed for 1 year.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Since I strong-armed him anyway. Actually.
Good work.
Yeah, it wasn't too much of a strong arm job. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we appoint Bob Baines, Robert Baines, to the Budget Committee for a term ending in 2021. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Spear, aye.
Aye.
Right side.
Now, Owen, while we're on that subject, have we appointed the 2 alternates to the Budget Committee? Or are those still empty?
Those are still empty.
Okay.
I didn't know we had alternates to the budget committee.
I think that was in the most recent policy change for when new members were added. If I recall correctly, alternate members were also added when they expanded the number.
But they've been tough to come by.
Well, we got a full committee now for
We have,
a moment.
yes, a moment in time. And 2 veterans, two freshmen going into their sophomore years, and then rookies. Train them up well, Jeff. Okay.
Yeah, I usually leave that to Moira.
All right, admin staff. Owen, floor is yours.
Okay, do you not want to do financials?
No, let's get through all this other stuff.
Okay, so you all got a chance to spend some time today talking with the individual I've extended an employment offer to, and I would ask that the board support my decision to hire Anna Genesia, Italian last name, to replace Chelsea in that vacancy.
So moved.
The last name is Genesio.
Genesio.
Thank you from the other person with a difficult last name.
So I want to be clear here. We're not appointing her as tax collector or town clerk in this motion. We're simply-
Not at this time, simply
Okay.
a
Yep.
hire.
Okay.
Want to move into that over time.
Yep.
So what's the job title?
Administrative assistant,
Okay, did you check the references?
some of them, not all of them.
What does some of them mean?
The most recent one. I haven't been able to find someone who has not spoken highly of her.
You talked to Carrie Cladburn at the Midcoast Medical Group.
Yes.
Really? So she knows her boss knows that she's going to quit.
Not in that same sense. No,
How about Melanie Green, Diane Howe, and Dale Harmon?
no, I did not check those.
Why not?
There's a lot going on. I felt pretty confident after talking with her that this was a good fit for the town.
Well, I think we all had a favorable impression in our discussions with her, but I would still recommend you follow up on, on her references.
I'm disappointed we didn't check the references, but I think we need to move on this. I had a very favorable impression of her. So I guess I would like to amend my motion that we appoint her effective
December 1st.
December 1st. And I'd like to add, well, yeah. Don't you want to be able to hire her on an hourly basis, though, a little bit maybe before that?
And there's a 6-month probationary period for.
No, I know
No,
that.
you want her in here being paid to shadow Chelsea and do some other stuff, right?
But so just December 1st is the earliest she would be on the payroll, even if it was a couple of hours?
The way that I had worked it out with her was she would start full-time, everything activated December 1st. We would keep track of any additional training or shadowing that she did prior to that. And then those times would be accounted for and added on to her first pay period.
Okay, well,
I mean, as her availability, if you all approve this, and as her availability permits, I'm happy to have her come in and fill all that stuff out. We can get her on payroll and we can.
right. Well, that's why I'm trying to back up to an earlier date. If you can help me, give me an earlier date. I mean, I know she can't start full time until December 1st, but
Yeah, I mean, you could make it, it doesn't really matter December 1st tomorrow when we're in
Well,
between.
yeah, I want to give you time to check. I'm going to amend my motion, though, to give you time to check her references.
Okay.
All right, I'll say, look, can I retract my motion and Jan would retract for a second?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we appoint Anna Genesio.
Approve the hiring of. You're not appointing her to anything.
Okay. I move that we approve the hiring of Anna Genesio effective December 15th, pending completion of reference checks by the town administrator.
December 1st.
December 1st, sorry.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
She calls out 3 references. So my suggestion would be that we get positive references from at least 2 of the 3.
I think that fits within the scope of my motion.
Okay, all right.
Okay, one more time, John.
I knew
Approve the
you-
hiring effective December 1st.
Yeah, effective December 1st. And I'm willing to do an earlier date if, Owen, you feel you want to bring her in for some potential training.
I feel comfortable that we can accommodate
All
that
right, okay,
December 1st date.
okay.
Yeah, the more time she spends, the better. It'll be to your advantage, the more training she gets from Kelsey.
I definitely agree.
Okay, I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye, Spear?
Audio aye.
Right side? Okay,
Do you want corrective deed, financials, or my report?
let's go down new business and get it all done. The financials are not too much doom and gloom in the financials other than the ambulance revenue and some other expense items.
I'm excited about the financials. It's a shiny spot. So the corrective municipal quitclaim deed without covenants was brought to our attention that back in 2004, the town had acquired property, transitioned that property to someone else. Instead of using the customary map and lot, for whatever reason, the language in 2004 read lot and map. And so what should have been map 9, lot 26, read as lot 9, map 26. And so all of the information was there. It was just backwards, map and lot. And that also did cascade into that deed changing and being corrected in 2008. And so it was referenced to Kristen, our legal person, after checking with the assessor to just confirm everything was as they were presenting it. And Kristen weighed in saying it's a simple deed correction. She offered draft language. The only changes that I made to Kristen's language, to Kristen's document, was just the format to be able to put it on the letterhead. So I changed none of the words, but I did change the format and put it on the letterhead. So it's exactly Kristen's words.
Okay.
Okay.
So we need to sign that document, I'm assuming at some point.
I move we execute the correct municipal quitclaim without covenants deed as presented to the meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye, Sphere.
Aye, Gaudio.
Aye, Wrights. Okay.
I will have to get signatures from you all just over time, the next time you get a chance to stop in. Same with some of the appointments and other documents that we can't sign right now.
Also, I'm not 100% sure this should be on letterhead, but I've never seen one on letterhead, so.
I'm happy to be, it was it was just a default mode thing. You know, I got this document, it appears to be coming from the town, signed by town select board. So I just plopped the letterhead on there. Do it however you want.
And probably they'll record it.
Or not.
I can check with the registry tomorrow about the format they want to see it in.
Yeah,
I just send it to them and let them reject.
yeah, that's what I'd do.
Yeah, except I got to get signatures from you all.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
I'll be by tomorrow.
I'll try to stop.
Okay, so in normal years, we'd be ramping up to do the budget process, and we do have to think about the fact that maybe the fiscal year doesn't change. So this is just a discussion item for what kind of guidance should we be giving to the department heads, from the board.
Hey, yes, exactly. I don't feel in any, I mean, the only guidance I've given them is make pretend that we're in a normal year. Try to start looking at your budgets now. Start putting things together for a 1-year budget for 2021, because that's going to be necessary anyway. So get started on that, pretend like it's a normal year, and then schedule with me to pull out stuff specific to your department, look over the cash flow analysis, find out if there's one-off expenses that are unique to each department so that they can account for those things for the first 6 months of 2022. And then we'll assist them in understanding any changes from, a simple 1-year budget to this 18-month budget. But then when they need to have that completed by, when they start doing meetings with you all to vet out their budgets, when not that budget committee really matters because it'll kind of cascade after you all, and they'll come in and talk with budget committee. But other than start working on your 1-year budget and pretend like it's a normal year, but meet with me to understand unique expenses and when they happen, I haven't provided any other guidance.
Okay. All right, a couple things that are more on my mind, and we don't have to, and that's to figure out the form and the the form and the coverage of Mo's compensation when for the budget. And John, this is a question for you as a historian, and maybe Jeff. Help me understand why the preponderance of the auto excise tax revenue is not allocated to the roads. It seems to me that a disproportionate amount of those revenues are allocated to other departments. Now, I understand that some amount of admin time goes into collecting and processing excise. And there's a couple of other things, but I just have never been able to understand why there's more peanut butter spreading of that revenue across the line items than I would do if I were making up an allocation scheme.
Well, I thought the preponderance of it was historically. I don't know about now. Actually, I think I remember looking at that and saying, wow, I thought we used to fund the entire public works budget from excise, and then we had other places, but I could be wrong. I'd have to go back and check that. But I think it should be, because while there's no requirement that excise tax be spent on roads, there's been rumblings in the legislatures past that it should be. I think you can make an argument that excise tax could be spent, as you say, there's a portion on admin, but you could certainly, I make an argument that ambulance and fire, the fact that we have traffic going down roads, contributes to their expenses. I think there's more call outs now to auto accidents from the fire department than there is for house fires, if I remember correctly. So I think you can make an argument there, but I actually feel that the public works roads budget should be 100% funded by the excise tax if we could do it.
Okay. We don't have to solve this now. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I would temper that with is that for paving, we use a lot of reserve, and we put money into reserve for it. So you could end up, if you're not careful with how you allocate that, you could end up messing up. In other words, not using any of your paving reserve for paving because you have enough coming in from excise tax to cover it. So some amount of that should go to other places so that you can utilize your paving reserve.
Totally makes sense. Thank you.
Plus you have the road assistance grant, which has to go there.
Correct.
That's 12 grand or whatever it is.
Owen?
So, and I look to Jeff to correct anything that I'm going to say as wrong. But this entire conversation is theoretical. So we have theoretically allocated certain monies. That money never actually goes to those departments. It never really offsets anything. It's a really good feel-good thing. It's a good process for us to look at all these and have that discussion. But we could take every bit of revenue, put it towards the highest expense department and keep going until the end. The reality is money comes in, it goes into the general fund, money goes out to pay expenses. So it's a great conversation to have, but at the end of the day, it literally means nothing.
And I've got to agree with that because again, it's only a budgeting process. You're only projecting your expenses and your revenues. And so the reality of where it goes, just like he said, it doesn't go to any of those. It goes to the general fund, and then the general fund pays out.
Right.
So there's one exception, and that is boat excise. And that we micromanage every year during the budget process to make sure that it is used only for what it's allowed to be used for. But the reality is all it is a budgeting exercise process.
I agree with that too, but I think there's more than one exception. Like the local roads grant is a second exception, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Actually, because I just filled that out, we're asked to explain what we spent money on last year. that money still goes into the general fund and gets spent out. It's accounted for in a little bit of a paperwork process, but it's the exact same thing. The revenue comes in, the, you know, invoices go out.
Okay, two other budget things for us to be thinking about. In August, the Revenue Forecasting Committee projected a $527 million shortfall of the various tax and income tax and sales tax. They're going to meet again in November. At least they usually do, so they'll update that. And their forecast for CPI for 2021 was 1.5%. So when we start thinking about wage guidelines, that's a factor in. Just wanted to point those two things out. Any other guidance for the?
I have a question. Has the board recently set a COLA for employees? I know we typically used to do that.
Yeah, we've done that every year.
We still do that. Is that, I'm not sure what you're looking for here, Owen, when you say guidance, but I mean, would that be an example?
No, what I was looking for was, when do you all expect department heads to have as close to a completed 18-month budget to you all to start scheduling meetings with them?
Well, I agree with you. I think they need to be starting in case we don't change the fiscal year.
And that, just knowing that there was a possibility that, you know, for whatever pop-up reason, we might shift gears. That's the only guidance that I've given them. Pretend like it's going to be a normal year. You should be looking at your budgets now and getting everything ready as though December you're going to have meetings with the board.
But if we do change the fiscal year, then I think we should adjust that out a few months, because I think the closer you do it to real time, the more accurate you're going to be.
I definitely agree. I'm just not in a position to give that guidance to the department. Basically, everything would get pushed back 3 months if we had March town meeting, April, May, June. So there's going to be a 3 month difference. Are we just telling them, you know, get started on your 1 year budget now, get it done by the beginning of the year, and then you have 3 additional months to figure out the last 6 month portion? Like, I mean, I know things will be figured out better after December 8th when we have special town meeting. So, I mean, there's a good time block there for them to be working on that. But I don't want to give them guidance in opposition to the board. I'd prefer that it come from the board.
What if we were to tell them between now and December 8th, they should be thinking about running flat for the 6 months of 2021? Then on December 8th, if we change the fiscal year, they can take a deep breath for 2 or 3 months and really dig into an 18-month budget.
I mean, they're already prepped for having the first 3 months be flat because that's just the customary. So that's more of an operational thing, you know, so they're going to end up doing that anyway. It's, when do you want the draft budgets to you all?
I think that depends on what we do with the fiscal year.
Yeah, I think we'll know after the 8th of December.
Okay.
So I think that guidance for now, Walter, would be fine. You know, that's a planning guidance, you know, plan on a flat budget for the first 6 months of the year.
Can I prevail upon the board to just draft something up so that it's coming from you all instead of me?
Yeah. Well, I think we've done that in the last 3 years.
Yep.
So I'll take that on.
Thank you. Next item.
the demo debris sticker thing.
Yep, like I say in my report, this was something initiated by Jerry, the facilities manager, just kind of observing some things that they're having a difficult time kind of weeding out any sort of potential bad actors. They get, you know, a feel from time to time, but we don't really have the good technical capabilities of checking these things kind of in real time. So they get figured out afterwards, after the assistant goes through and starts like correlating the reports we get from the facility attendant to what we have in our system. Sometimes things can get a little confusing. I think it's also compounded by the fact that we're at the end of our 2-year sticker cycle. So there are a lot of stickers out there, and there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of more places where someone could have done something just a little nefarious. We don't think that it's a huge problem, but what Jerry wanted to find out about was when we start issuing our 21-22 stickers, is there basically some sort of warning that we can give folks that just reminds them of the rules around the facility, how the facility functions, what are the do's, what are the don'ts of getting a sticker. And so what we did was went through the stump dump policy or demolition debris policy. I selected some kind of highlights, like when they're open, where it's located and what's on there, things about the sand taking, user fees, acceptable waste, unacceptable waste. And that's all in the top part of this document. So, you know, Jan comes in to get his new sticker. We ask him for the money. And then when we go to give him the sticker, we say, can you please review this document and sign it? If they choose to read it in depth, that's fine. If they choose to just take it or an explanation, that's fine as well. But to actually receive the sticker, they would sign the bottom portion here that says, I attest to being provided this information and know what the rules are. And then we would cut this line right here. They walk away with all of this information with them and their sticker, and we retain this portion to be put into our record. So if we find that someone has been doing the wrong thing, we have, in addition, enforcement of the ordinance, we have their signature basically attesting to, I'm going to follow the rules. This would be additional time. I'm sure that some people would complain about it. This, you know, if it hadn't come from the facility manager himself, then I probably wouldn't have caught it, but it's something that was requested to be generated. And so you all just have this option in front of you. And we do, I mean, you have some additional time to think about this. This is early November. The stickers won't go out until, I mean, what we've been waiting for prior to issuing any of the new stickers was resolution and input from the board on this document specifically.
Yeah, because it's about time to start selling the new stickers. They're going to be effective 1 January. I
Correct.
like
Yep.
the idea, I'll speak first, I guess. I like the idea of providing them with an abbreviated section of the rules. And you could give them that along with the sticker. I'm not sure that there's value in something that they sign. You know, the ordinance is already law, you know, municipal law. So, you know, if it comes down to enforcing, although I'm not aware of any, you know, unless they're not telling us, I'm not aware of any issue that you're talking about. This could be a problem. Well, is it a problem or isn't it? Have we got people that we think are dumping? And if so, how come? You know, because we could send them a letter specifically and say, hey, you know, I'm a little hesitant to just make this a document that they sign to put in a file somewhere with the idea that we're going to pull it out later when we want to prosecute them and say, hey, you signed this, so now we can hold you to it. I'm just not sure that's viable. But I do like the idea of giving them the rules and giving them as a takeaway. Here's your new sticker. Here's the rules to review. My thoughts.
Yeah. Who are the abusers?
So I mean, like I could like describe an abuser.
Yeah. I'm not looking for names. I'm looking for what are the abuses.
Okay, so Jeff Northgraves has a current dump sticker, and it's or a stump dump sticker. And then his neighbor Jan Gaudio hires him to tear down his porch and rebuild it. And Jeff's making money off of this because Jan paid him to do it. Both of those are South Thomaston residents. However, the dynamic has changed because Jeff would be utilizing his taxpayer sticker to bring what is construction, private business construction debris to the facility. And we have a difficult time saying, I don't believe that that waste was generated from your house, Jeff Northgraves, and you're using your sticker, Jeff Northgraves, to then deposit it here and we'll get it out of your tax dollars. So if Jeff is doing it at his house, he's allowed to take that waste and deposit that debris at the facility. If he's making money off of it, even if it's for a South Thomaston, another South Thomaston taxpayer, that still goes against the rules that you all have set forth, and that individual would need to get vouchers to relate to the amount of yardage that they're bringing in. And really, the enforcement of this is difficult because it's not hugely difficult to game the system under that type guise. We really rely on the attendant for gathering the proper information, gathering that the permit sticker and the license plate and an address. He's doing a great job. Under COVID, some of the information, there was a period of time where we weren't asking him to gather that information to give him more physical distance. So he was just trying to get permit numbers and license plate numbers, and we try to correlate that on our end to ensure.
And are we seeing an increase in the volume of trash being dumped? What you're describing, I think, would be fine if the property owner whose work was being done by Jeff, if Jan brought that stuff himself, that would be fine.
Correct.
You're saying there's a problem when the contractor does it.
Correct.
I'll go back to when I remodeled my house in 2012. My contractor came and got a permit to be able to dump at the stump dump. In the case of a lot of the demo, I put my own truck and brought up there. So I think that's acceptable. I mean, that's construction debris. That's what that's for. So again, unless are we seeing a big increase where we suspect that people are dumping things? I guess I don't want to make something out of something that isn't anything, I guess.
No, and I will just say that I cannot provide the answers.
Yeah, and I guess it's a rhetorical question. You're not the right guy to ask the question to.
Correct.
It's the kind of thing we should ask Jerry about. I'm not aware that we're seeing excessive, dump costs, tipping fee costs, because more people are dumping. I think if there's an anomaly that the town could take advantage of, we've instituted a $10 charge to drop a mattress, but we haven't instituted nothing for a box spring. So when I bring my king size bed, I pay to drop off a king size mattress, $10. I pay nothing for the 2 box springs. So, I mean, I did that myself. That's why I was surprised that there wasn't, and I should have known because I even approved the mattress charge. But if we're going to think through things like that are costing us money because of bulk, those are the kinds of things I guess I'd like to see us look at.
I definitely agree. Just the only thing about that example specifically, because Jerry and I talked about that, a box spring can be crushed up and greatly reduced in size, and mattress itself, because it's laden with springs, you just can't do the same thing. We talked about box springs, but yes, the only thing that I'll say is between Jerry and Dana, they have a really good pulse of the community. They know who's building, they know who's hauling, they know who's doing this and that.
Sure.
And though they might not be able to say exactly, John Smith is doing this and that's wrong and we need to send them something, it's a lot seems to be based on their sense and what they're getting for a feel for the folks that are there typically when it's operating. And he requested that this document be generated up, but beyond that, I can't really provide answers.
Okay, so can we table this until Jerry either talks to one of us and explains what he's trying to do, or comes to our next meeting? That's my suggestion, because I don't see how this bottom of this form solves the problem you described.
It doesn't. It was primary. So when Jerry and I talked, primarily what we hope to accomplish was John and Jane Q Public that do the right thing every time would be like, absolutely, I have no problem following the rules. The individual
so
who might try to game
We
the
don't need to
system.
keep explaining it, Owen. Let's see.
But I think the other value here is this is a tough job for Jerry and Dana. And people do try to game the system. I mean, there's no question in my mind about it. I mean, several years ago, we had one contractor who re-roofed his own house 7 times in one summer, I swear. And I think personally, we need to support them in this effort, because I think if we don't support them, we're going to be sending the wrong message. And I think we will see increases. And because we're relatively cheap, towns, I think that, so I have no problem with it at all. And I think a lot of it is just good information that people should have. I don't know, I could live without them not signing it. That's not critical to me, but I think I kind of liked it. I thought it was good.
I like the memo.
Yeah, I like the memo too, as well.
What I'm happy to do is,
But if we put this off, we're not going to be able to start selling stickers until December.
Yeah, you need to sell them.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
well, I mean, you have your second November meeting, and what I would propose is I will leave this document as is, and then I'll create a new document that strikes the entire bottom signing portion. I'll see what other information or easier to read format that we could have, a single page informational sheet, and then we'll try to get Jerry in front of you all at your second November meeting. You can hear from him and then make a decision on which of the versions you want to go with or nothing at all. And then come basically December 1st, we can start selling stickers.
Yeah, I'm personally, I'm ready to move ahead, but.
Yep, me too.
As is, as presented.
No, I agree taking off the signing thing, but I do want to make sure, and what I do like about that is it's sort of a mechanism for the town staff to make sure that somebody gets this. But I agree with Jan. It feels a little big brotherish or something.
And then,
We're gonna put this in a file on you.
Yeah,
and what are you gonna do with the people that refuse to sign, Owen?
They don't get a dump
You
sticker.
don't get a sticker.
Yeah,
No, I mean, like really, however you all want to do this is fine. The point of the signature is just another warning for those that might do the wrong thing, that you need to follow the rules. That was, I mean, when Jerry and I talked about it, that was really all we would get out of the signature. The ordinances, the policy is still binding. There's still, things that we can do outside of, the individual attesting to all this, but it has that more comfort.
Yeah, I'm fine with it as it is if we just take off the signature. I mean, I do think that there should be, I don't mind the statement that says that, by getting this sticker, I agree to the rules. I mean, that's fine. I just personally, that's how I feel.
all right.
If you want to wait to the next meeting, I guess that's okay. It's just, I would think people are going to start asking for stickers though, if they haven't already.
Well, and here's the thing is that I can, basically, this isn't like a, giving out information is not a board vote, go, no go thing for me. So I have this document. This is just information. Maybe like the happy medium is Walter and I will keep in touch on this. If it needs to come back on the agenda for the end of your November meeting, I can, fiddle with things and provide different options for you all. But if you get a chance to talk to Jerry in the next couple of days and you get a better sense of what's going on here, you guys can give me some guidance, and I can make it happen as soon as I get, a good nod from the chair or something like that, because this is not really a hugely impactful item. Especially if you're not talking about signatures. If you're talking just about information, then,
Yeah.
the board chair saying it's good to go. I talked with Jerry. I understand what's going on now. Go ahead and start giving it out. Then that's all that we need.
Okay. I made a note to call Jerry tomorrow.
Sounds
Yeah.
good to me.
Other board members too, just to get, because I mean, like it's difficult to try to understand exactly what's going on and what the concerns are. So, you know, I get my sense from Jerry. I would encourage you all to check in with him.
Yeah, and I agree. I've talked to him a number of times, and I think we need to support him in this regard. If he thinks it's a good idea, I want to support him in it.
Yeah, I agree with that part as well. And Dana.
Is it
Okay,
time for
what's
us to
next?
raise the price of demo stickers?
Say that again.
I said, on a side note, is it time for us to raise the price of our demo stickers? Because I think you're right, it is very inexpensive.
I mean, it's one of those things, we get it from them somehow. It's either you increase user fees and you defer property taxes, or you keep the amount for them to acquire this low and you get their money through property taxes. One's a little more equitable on the user, one's less equitable on the tax base, I guess.
Yeah, it's a user fee. I mean, we pay it at the transfer station too. I don't know what's going on, Walter, with the transfer station. Are they keeping this fees flat again?
I don't remember. I missed the meeting where they said the plea was to raise it to $20.
Well, the irony is I think we're still charging contractors, people who pick up trash for fees. We're still charging them only like $375 a year. So, and you know, they're doing it for lots of money. They make that in a month. So it's
yeah. Well, there's a
taxpayers still subsidizing it somewhere.
right. There's an argument for that. But
Yeah, I know.
How much is a sticker, Owen?
$10,
Yeah, it's 10. Just so you know, I did apply some discretion, and folks coming in to get stickers in the last 2 months, we've prorated that down.
The ones that expire in January, you mean?
They're 2-year stickers. We go about 1.5 years charging at full rate. Once you start getting to the last 2 months of a 2-year sticker, it's just really difficult to say I need $10 from you. So we have been rating those down.
So it's $5 a year to dump an unlimited amount of trash.
right.
And then we take $500 from your tax money from each person to make up for the rest of it.
When was the last time we increased it?
I don't know.
It's been several years.
Yeah, $10 is very modest, but really what you're paying almost for the printing of the sticker itself, and just making the commitment that we're viewing everyone as equal. So we're going to take tax dollars from everyone equally, regardless of how much waste you bring in. So, I mean, if Jim brings in none.
I mean, I hear that argument, but you know, we all pay school taxes whether they have a child in school or not too. So, you know, if you didn't have a transfer station, would my taxes be lower? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, it's just because of the work that I did on the other solid waste board, this conversation came up a lot, and some people have very, very strong.
I mean, I hear you. You could argue that, yeah, our tax dollars, we don't charge any fees and everybody pays it in their taxes. You know,
or you charge like nothing, you charge nothing on the property taxes and you acquire everything through user fees. So if, you know, Jeff's showing up with 100 cubic yards, but you show up with 1, Jeff pays a bunch, Jan pays nothing, and both of you aren't taxed equally.
Right. If you go to the buy the bag fee or something like that. I've heard those arguments.
Yeah. Well, the idea of the fee is not even on the agenda, actually, so.
Right. I know. I brought it up as a side note.
Okay. We can't recommit the taxes because
Chelsea had a little bit of a sore throat this morning. Out of an abundance of caution, she stayed home. She's going to monitor, and we're going to see how that all goes. We had assistance from Michelle, so we were able to work all of our customers today. When I contacted Chelsea on, hey, this is something that I need to get done, because Chelsea had only done it once before with the assistance of Trio, we just didn't feel comfortable, me being the actioner behind the system, having Chelsea and Trio a bit of a kind of had the makings of a bit of a goat rope to where something could go wrong. Because we didn't want to have to correct this in the future, what we thought was a happy medium was either tabling this. If anyone had any concerns, we could extend out her appointment as tax collector to your next meeting. I don't have any concerns, basically tabling this item and just moving forward, and we'll bring you accurate numbers at your next meeting.
The election.
So the recommitment would be retroactive to today?
Should be.
I mean, yes, that's one of the other things that we, now we're gonna have to sort out. The only thing I would say is that, on the actual date of your next meeting, things that were collected in would be paid and offset. And
Yeah, see, so I don't think you can do it. I think you got to do it on the day you run it.
And that was one of the things. Yeah, Chelsea and I, we talked today, and I was like, hey, what I want you to think about, because I'm a little underwater here, is what of any liability are we leaving the town open to by not doing this tonight, or not changing appointments, or not doing anything? Neither she or I could think of scenarios that put us in a bad position. At the same time, we both recognize that we're not massively experienced in this specific segment of what a town does, and really wanted to look to guidance from the board. I don't feel uncomfortable about just tabling this item, keeping everything how it is, us gathering some additional information, and then bringing to you a solution with really accurate numbers at your next meeting. But if folks had concerns one way or the other, what we can do is change appointment dates or anything like that.
I'll make a motion. We table this item to the next agenda.
Which is the 24th of November.
24th. Okay, I second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Let us know if we should rally earlier than that, Owen. If you come up with something that you haven't anticipated.
Yep, will do.
Other than that, all in favor?
So do I.
Okay. The election.
Yeah, I mean, all I'll say is I'll say three different things. One, man, we got really good people in this town office, and they put a lot of work in, namely and specifically Phil and Chelsea. Do not want to somehow undervalue our elections warden or any of the elections workers or anything like that. But Phil and Chelsea just did an awesome job, which leads me to Paul Petzl's famous quote, which is prior proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. And so election day went very, very smoothly. Actually, a healthy amount of catch-up work was done in the office because everything was running so smoothly. And then the other big thing is really thanking the election workers themselves and the citizenry. We had no problems that I was aware of with any confrontations, conflicts, raised voices, anything. Maybe I missed something, but I had heard nothing. Penny and Sandy did an amazing job of counting. Everyone worked together great for an election that had roughly 77% of all the eligible voters in town participate and have our highest voter turnout that this town has ever seen. It just really went smoothly. And so my hat is off to all the folks that assisted, and especially the citizens for being just really thoughtful and understanding and compliant. People moved in, people moved out. Penny was there. If you have any other thoughts, I would, welcome Penny's input as well. Just, it went great.
Good, great, thank you.
Okay, super.
Assessing services. This is Rob's proposal for next year.
Correct. And I'm sorry that I did not bring additional supplemental information other than what's in my report. So we started with RJD in 2014. Not saying that there's been any issues with RJD. Their costs have gone up incrementally every year. They've proposed a $600 a day. It was $585 under the last contract, and primarily putting a pause on this just to have you all think about it for a couple of reasons. One, Jan and Walter, from my time being with you all, I feel like I've heard a handful of times at different meetings, this kind of hearkening back to the day where it was a local who had certain credentials. It's like the one person that did it. And man, wouldn't it be great if we could find a local capable of doing that? When you put that with the increase on the daily rate, plus the fact that I found no evidence that we went out to RFP for assessing services since 2014, it just seemed like a good time to propose going back out to RFP, just seeing what else is out there. RJD will put in, their own proposal. It gives you all a chance to see if there's anyone else there that makes more sense. It's a very healthy thing for towns to go and do RFPs even when they're satisfied with their services. So prior to presenting to you all, do you want to approve this continuation of services with RJD? I just wanted to have you all be aware of some of that stuff, because we have a little bit of a window if we want to go out to RFP and have you all talk to some of these firms. And if at the end of the day we settle back with RJD, that's great. And if not, we have a little bit of time to explore this.
Actually, I'd like to see us go out. I'd like to see us go out and try and hire an assessor. Put an announcement on, the Maine Municipal Association website for a town assessor and see if there's any of that out there. The cost would be, use the budget that we do with Art and J, as a personnel cost. That's what we've talked about in past years, is the idea of bringing that in-house.
You're talking about an employee,
Right.
or a contract.
Which is what we used to have, John, I think in your day, right?
We did, yeah. But my concern is it's so late.
I just got the notice from.
Well, I know, but we know the
RJD.
contracts. We knew the contract was going to expire. It's year to year. I mean, I just feel like if we were going to do this, we should have been doing it in September or August. And I just feel like we've got a lot of balls in the air and a lot on your plate. And
Okay, maybe it's not the year.
I don't know.
I hear you, but
Huh?
we've
I
said
just-
that for several years now,
Yeah.
and each time we
No.
haven't done it.
No, I know. I mean, it's already mid-November.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I mean,
The only thing that I'll know, I do have some clarifying questions of RJD. I haven't asked them yet. Specifically, they reference a fiscal year in that letter, not a calendar year. And so my guess is that they just took a template and plopped our stuff in it. But there is some additional language I would want to see in that, and where I didn't anticipate you all approving this tonight. And I just wanted to figure out where we were at with some of this stuff. If you want to, put a reminder that, October, September of next year, you all want to do an RFP, we can do that. And then just continue with RJD if that's what you want me to do. There is some language cleanup in their proposal that I provided to you that I'd ask them for anyway.
I do have a question. Has anyone expressed interest to you? Have you received any, sort of solicitation letters from folks or phone calls or, I guess put it bluntly, is there anybody that you're aware of that might be looking for this type of work? I don't mean by name, but.
No, the only thing that I'll say is that a budding municipality did just hire a assessor's agent, and they will be doing a reval of their entire municipality. And with that being an abutting municipality and it being a single person, I was curious the possibilities of the benefits of having the same assessor or assessor's agent do a reval. I know that we're not in a position to do a reval anytime right now, but a reval of a surrounding municipality will take some time. And so we could sock some more money into the reval. And then if the stars aligned, there's just some potential that that individual that just did an entire assessment of surrounding town could then use those same metrics or some of the same data that they saw and it could provide a better reval for us at some point 2 years from now.
Well,
One of the reasons why I think there are advantages to having an employee, one of the disadvantages, and there are disadvantages, is there's no backup. I mean, if that person gets sick or quits or is disabled for a couple of weeks, a month, I mean, you know, you have no backup. And that was one of the reasons, if I recall, we kind of liked RJD when we went to them, is they could switch people in and out. You know, well, it wasn't ideal, but at least they could. I guess I'm just uncomfortable putting more on our plate at this point in time. But
and I did some exploration of this 2 years ago, and let me tell you, Rob has the corner of the market. I couldn't find any competitors that now I didn't do an RFP. Obviously, we didn't do an RFP, but I was defaulting to if it's not him, let's find our own internal person. But you're right, John, about the backup. So I think no action on this right now.
I agree. It's too late in the game to change horses.
Fine. So do you all want me to, what I'll do is I'll offer my suggestions to the document RJD provided to us just to get some clarity around that. And then I'll bring it back to you with those changes for your next meeting.
Yeah. Just a comment on the fiscal year. Our calendar year is the fiscal year. So they're not exclusive.
Our calendar year is our financial year.
Yep.
Fiscal year refers to that June, July turnover.
No.
And so
Fiscal year is the same as your financial.
any 12-month period, but
Yeah, any 12-month period.
okay.
Right now, our fiscal year is 1 January to 31 December, which also happens to be the calendar year.
that's good to know, because I've been using financial year to explain, and I use fiscal year with very specific dates and calendar year with other dates. So I appreciate the correction.
Do you need a motion to table this, Walter?
I would think so, yeah.
I'll make a motion. Actually, what is the agenda item?
Consideration of assessing services.
Yeah, there's nothing really to table under.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, we are still doing that, so I won't table it. So.
All right. What's next?
What's next is hopefully some conversation that I can address and then briefly run over back to my office to get the charger for my computer. I've got 18%, so I'm good for right now, but the next opportunity, I just want to get it plugged in so we don't lose anything.
All right. Well, and it's
wanna
becoming
do-
obvious that these agendas are the stuff that's taking too long, and it's pretty clear that a couple of us, 6 to 9, is like really stretching our attention spans.
Especially
So-
the third meeting of the day.
Yeah. Anyhow, so what's next?
Oh, you better plug in or you're gonna lose us.
No, I've got 18%. I'm looking at the
All
little
right.
thingy. It's yellow, but we're good. So I'll just go over my report real quick. I think basically the bulk of everything that we just went over was on there, or things that we'll do under old business. So everything that's in my report basically has been discussed or will be discussed in the once we get to old business. Treasurer's report, like Walter said, the financials they're looking generally good for a range of different reasons. State revenues are coming in higher than projection. Homestead came in higher. The local roads I just submitted, that will be 5% lower, but still okay. Expenses, department heads, really, they've just been doing a great job of doing more with less. Doesn't mean that we're compromising anything. It just means folks are continuing to be as thoughtful as they can be. Let's see. So the only thing to think about on the treasurer's report is Oh, and I bet if I took half second at some point, I'd be able to give you a little bit of an update. The way Machias sends their stuff to us is on it's like confidential mail. So I have to like open up a different separate place to get any communication from them. So I have received something from Machias within the last day. I just haven't checked it yet, so I'm sorry. But the TAN stuff, so I mean, we all knew that the interest line was going to be overspent because we borrowed money from Machias. So that's all kind of known. The thing to think about is there was a 120-day sunset put on the borrowing authority. You don't have to do anything right now. We don't anticipate needing to do another TAN for cash flow until March or April of next year. So, but I just want you all to be aware that within the next couple of days, that 120 days will be completely expired. And I would just need to get approval from you all again to borrow. The thing that I had asked Machias for was their offering was on that same sunset time frame. And so I just didn't know if they were going to continue with the same terms. They're decent terms. It's a good interest rate. It's very seamless. When we asked for the money, it was very seamless when we paid the money back. So just something to think about before we do any other borrowing for any sort of cash flow thing. We will need approval from you all to do so, but that's more of a heads up for 4 or 5 months from now.
Well, and I don't have the report in front of me, but how is the fire department's contract services doing that line? Because I noticed the last warrant that seems to be an awful lot of truck maintenance going out to is it Greenwood?
And then there's even more that didn't make it to those.
How's that line doing for the fire?
I will tell you. So fire contract services as of November 5th for contract services, they were at 57%.
Okay.
So they still had 13,500 remaining. I do know that we paid some invoices for Greenwood out of that. And I definitely do not want to step on the fire chief's toes at all. But I just have heard that there's a little bit of a concern that we've continued to put money into a truck that does not consistently roll, is not necessarily the best vehicle for us to have, isn't a huge benefit for the town. And I'm happy to have him correct me.
You don't need to take that time, Owen. I hear you, but that's another issue, another time.
I just know he's felt bad about having to put all that money into an engine that
But he's okay financially. He's still got plenty in his budget, I'm hearing.
Yep.
Okay.
I had one question, and I had a few, but I'll leave it at one. You say in your report, with the exception of ambulance service, for reasons that you all understand, all departments are tracking at or below. I don't understand what you mean by that.
So
ambulance billings are way down because
Well, I know, but he's talking about expenses here, right?
and that's the increase in
PPE.
the CIO. There's a whole lot of COVID related kinds of things that she's had to do, because the what's counterintuitive here is that calls are way down, but they're gonna overspend their wage and salary budget. Now,
Yeah, I guess that's what I don't get. I understand why the equipment and supplies might be up, but why is the wage? That's be up too. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it tonight. I'm tired.
It's pretty simple. The coverage has remained the same. So basically, Amy was on track for hitting the payroll about right. With all the COVID stuff, there was a requirement for an OIC, an officer in charge, that always went to every scene. This is an additional payroll expense of which was not anticipated when the budget was crafted. So coverage has remained the same, but there's been additional coverage that was necessary that was not projected when we put this budget together.
Okay,
But
No grant coming for that, right?
Yes, and so it appears worse than it actually is. She will likely still be slightly over budget, but when we get FEMA reimbursement monies, some of those will be offset.
So we're gonna we're gonna credit the grant money to the expense lines to reduce those expenses, or
Yes.
never mind. It's too late. I'll talk.
Fire has the same problem, but the same issue with the officer in charge, but they've been able to absorb it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on financials?
No.
All right, then moving on, back down to
Oh,
business.
yeah. I hate to bring this subject up. That's the wrong time, but we, never mind. I'll do it on November 24th.
Great. Then the first item under old business is the consideration of performance awards. You all have the 3 requests in front of you. While you discuss, I'll run and grab my charger cable and then let me know what you want to do with it when I get back.
Yeah, Walter, what 3 requests do you have in front of you? Because I don't have 3.
I have Carrie,
Yeah,
Phil, and Chelsea.
Carrie, who?
Carrie Adams,
Yeah, and who else?
Chelsea,
Chelsea and
Bill.
Phil. Okay. So we've actually got letters on Phil and Chelsea?
Yep.
Okay. I don't have those. Must have been in my packet, which I didn't get to.
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Okay. And those are the only ones that we've received so far?
Yep.
Okay.
Do we anticipate more? I suppose we can't answer, you can't answer that.
No, it's,
Well, we have put the word out to all the department heads. So
I did go out to them and re-explained it.
Was
now-
there a deadline? Was there a deadline on that, or?
No,
No.
just, it was an awareness thing. Because there's
And what's
not a deadline other than the budget year.
Yeah, and what's the total pot of money again?
I think it's 3,000.
Correct.
Sounds right.
Yep.
I don't think we've ever spent it.
Can I ask a question? When did we initiate this?
4 years ago. Or 3 years ago.
Yeah, at least. So I guess, so where are we with this? Are we just gonna, are we gonna take action tonight on these 3, or are we just gonna collect them until we get to the point where we want to take action?
Oh, no, I think we take action on these 3.
Okay,
I didn't hear what you said, Walter.
I think we should take action on these 3.
Oh.
You do them as they come.
okay. I guess my concern is that, you know, obviously we I don't know what the other amounts were, but I see that Carrie's is a $500 amount. So these 3 would take half of that money tonight if we approve them all. So I don't know, you know, John said something, should there be a deadline where we say, okay, all those received, you know, by this date? Or are we just going to take it kind of a first come, first serve?
I mean, I think that the triggering should be an event or series of events that constitute outstanding performance above and beyond what you do when you're doing your job very well.
Agree.
And that doesn't happen, that happens at random.
Right.
It's not a scheduled event. So, John, we can't,
Pardon?
oh, you weren't talking to us?
No, I was talking to my wife. She
You
said, you're not done yet? No,
you lit up.
I did not say.
no,
that.
she didn't say that.
No, mine did.
Mine did. That's why I muted her.
I don't have a lot to say on this because I'm not really a fan of this as a concept. So I'm just gonna, I may abstain on voting.
No, that's a cop-out, John. You can't do that.
Well, I don't want to vote no because I don't want it to be a reflection on the people.
But you don't approve of the concept.
I'm not a fan of it. No, not in a municipal setting like this where, you know, everybody's aware of who gets what and it's all public information and but
All right, well, that's a discussion we can have at budget time.
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna say much of anything. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Jan,
Well, like you said, unfortunately, I just have Carrie's in front of me. So Owen will have to speak to the other two. But, you know, again, it's difficult to look at a half a page of a memo and come to a determination on whether Carrie Adams is a worthy candidate. But I have to rely on the department head, you know, and their word. And obviously Amy feels that this is warranted. So I'm inclined to support it.
I would just say on Carrie specifically, and I am not her supervisor, but I've had a lot of exposure to her. I fully support everything that Amy wrote in there. And I do think that Carrie is just a wealth of knowledge and experience. And she has provided a huge amount of positive benefit for that service. I very much support Amy in that request.
a little amorphous, but you know, she's the link between the old and the new, and has embraced the changeover and really helped solidify it and get it institutionalized. I mean, you know, everybody on that service is new, and most of them don't even live here. So, the thing that impresses me is that she's stepped up above and beyond, and that's what I think this, in my view, that's what this program is all about, is the above and beyond, outside of the norm. It's not to reward somebody for just doing their job well. You do that by increasing their compensation.
Okay.
But John will have a different opinion of that when we do the budget, and he gets to weigh in on this. So is there a motion?
Yeah, so I'll move that we approve Carrie Adams for a $500 performance bonus.
John will abstain or not second. I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Gaudio, aye.
Wright's aye.
Spear abstain.
Okay, approved.
And I'm sorry that yours didn't make it into the packet, Jan.
No, I think it is in the packet. I just haven't had a chance to print it out.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I put forward both Phil and Chelsea for $500 awards each for different reasons. Chelsea as just a ball of professional energy that came in and has done massive amounts of above and beyond work, of which I've tried to get across to you all. I think you all have observed as well. And Phil, the above and beyond that Phil provides for this office is, I mean, Phil likes to leave work at work and enjoy his home time. That said, there's never been a single time that I've asked for Phil to assist outside of normal business hours. Phil is very proactive when it comes to ensuring that I've done my job right on scheduling. If anyone has an appointment that they need to go to, oftentimes Phil will bring something up to me, but then say he's already talked with Michelle and she's available. He adjusted his surgery time that he's currently recovering from to be after the election to ensure that he could be there for a safe and successful election. He is so consistent. I just don't think that you can ask for a more even keel for this town office. And he is the glue that keeps it all together, from historical knowledge, the grinding it out. You mean, if I had to deal with someone who complained about being asked to do stuff, that would be really difficult for me. Phil is just great. Never complains, owns up to any mistake, works to resolve it. Between the two of them, they really, compensate for anything that I'm not doing right. So I could talk on and on about both those two, but I definitely think that they're both deserving of these awards.
Yeah, I move that we approve performance awards for Kelsey and for Phil
In the amount of,
in the amount of $500.
I'll second the motion, and then we'll have some discussion. And Terry nominated Phil for the same situation 2 years ago, so I don't like the optics of repeat for the same thing. Chelsea, I support because of just the one thing of opening the office to register to take votes on Saturdays and Sundays for 2 weekends. I mean, that's a deal maker in my opinion.
yeah, Phil assisted with that, just so you know. Phil also assisted with coming in and checking the drop box in any times Chelsea wasn't available. So I'm not trying to downgrade anything that Chelsea's done, but that was done very much with Phil as well.
I wish you. I guess what I'm saying is that I wish you hadn't done both.
Deserving.
Makes it look like an entitlement, a departmental entitlement, and
It's maybe a little bit easier because these are 2 of your 3 full-time employees. There are more opportunities for them to go above and beyond. More is asked of them on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And I understand the optics of what you're talking about. That said, I wouldn't want to signal to Phil, who has shown this amazing consistency, to feel that consistency and that commitment to this town, of which he's shown a long-term commitment to, in any way is downgraded because this award was rejected, simply because another department had chosen not to recognize the standout employee.
oh, that's a little out of line comment. It's been moved and seconded. What?
I mean, all department heads.
You don't say anything more.
I'd like to say, I'm going to abstain again. This, I don't know, I didn't say this with the first applicant because I didn't know that person. I wouldn't know if I tripped over. I know nothing about her, but I am abstaining for the reasons that I stated. I will be abstaining for the reasons I stated earlier, but I want it to be, for the record, to be clear that it has nothing to do with either Chelsea or Phil's performance.
No, it has to do. You think this is a cockamamie scheme. You don't like the program, and I'm not being critical, by the way.
Well, no, actually, I just thought of another reason I don't like it. What you just said before, it sort of becomes an entitlement, maybe.
Well, yeah, and it's,
No,
the last 3 companies that I worked in had programs like this, and that was always the trigger to change the program or stop it, was when it became a turnsies thing and an entitlement thing. And that's when we started punishing managers for misbehavior. Anyhow, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Audio aye.
Wrights reluctantly aye.
Beer abstain.
And again, my reluctance is not any kind of negative on the performance of the individuals or the quality of your justification, Ellen. It's kind of the structure or the never mind.
We got it.
And I hear what you're saying, Walter, it's very difficult to do this kind of a program, if in fact the department heads aren't, really looking for individual excellent performance. I thought your example of Kelsey's, weekend was certainly what was in my mind as well. Or Chelsea's, that was an initiative that she generated and carried out, and was well done. There is an employee that I would love to see, put forth, and that's Dana out in the stump dump. We keep talking about the job he's doing, and I guess I need to reach out to Jerry and remind him this program exists, because he's the one that took on the additional work when we put in the new, getting rid of all the traps and getting the extra dumpsters, all the nets, all that stuff. That was a lot of extra work, I think, done out the stump dump that we could recognize specifically. So that's just my opinion, and I'll take that up with Jerry.
I would also say that Dana, in any sort of downtime during the summer, also painted the shack there. We provided the material, but he did all the labor as part of his per hour rate. And I definitely would have nominated Dana, but I'm not his supervisor.
No, I understand.
Okay. Next.
Yep. Planning board items were already reviewed and discussed. I put the financial year, other special town meeting items just as an opportunity for you all to move anything forward that you wanted to have a discussion about it, reflect on the public hearing, reflect on the recommendation, joint meeting with budget committee. A little bit of an opportunity in case anyone's slogging through this meeting to come across this information for the first time. We still don't have to notice the warrant right away. We have time to notice the warrant.
Well, we've approved the minutes, and we've modified the warrant to reflect the votes and the recommendations from the budget committee in that joint meeting. So I think all the action there, as far as I'm concerned, has been done.
Can you remind me when the special town meeting is slated for?
December 8th.
You guys are gonna kill me, but I'm becoming very concerned about having this town meeting. And I think at a minimum, we should eliminate the last article. Because I think if there's any controversy at all, it's gonna be that last article. And put that off until June, where we can have a robust discussion about it, and then it would go into effect the following year at a minimum. At a maximum, since we haven't heard any controversy whatsoever about Articles 2 through 5, and the budget committee fully endorses this, given the situation with COVID, I'm wondering if we should just move ahead and do it.
Oh, you mean use our authority?
Yeah, I just don't see any controversy here at all, and to bring people out at a meeting when things are going the way they're going, I'm feeling very, I'm nervous about that. But again, at a minimum, if we eliminated the last article, I don't think more than 4 people are going to show up. So.
I don't know, because they're going to pay half of 18 months twice in the first year, Penny.
I totally agree. I think this is not a responsible thing to do, to have a public gathering of any sort at this time with the things. I don't even think there should be any more select board meetings in person until we're past this current state of COVID in Knox County. And I think if you pass the first articles, I mean, just went ahead with that, I don't think there would be any big outcry. The last article, I do think deserves robust discussion. And I think it's quite clear you're not going to get that this year at this time. People are distracted, and this is very low on their radar. So I agree with John. Thank you.
I too agree with John, but when's the, first for sure, I think it's dropped Article 6.
I can support that.
But when's the drop dead for posting the warrant for a special town meeting?
7 days, but you might as
7
well
days
call
in
it.
advance.
You do call it 9. Call
Yeah,
it
you
9.
gotta call it 9, because you gotta have.
Yeah,
time
the way
to
that they
go
count
around.
the days, you count the day you post it, the day of special town meeting, and the 7 days in between.
Okay.
So December, the end of November.
So I was just about to say, well, let's do something to jack up attendance, but I don't want any attendance. I don't even want to go.
I don't either.
Well, and I would agree as well, but I do think that if we're not going to take this to a town meeting, and because we're going to impact people's tax dollars, we're going to have to come up with a newsletter to the town, a mailing to the town that talks about this. So I think that our Q&As and the things that we've got in our warrant would still be applicable. We just need to reformat them so that we can, educate the town. Here's what we're doing. Here's what the select board's decided to do, and here's what the impact's going to be.
Good idea, and I think a couple of Zoom meetings, Zoom and YouTube meetings just dedicated to this concept. And we don't all have to be there, but we go out to the listserv and we publish it on the web. And yes, that only gets the technically competent people or the people that have access, but we explain to them, here's what we're doing and here's why we're not having a town meeting to discuss it, but why we think it's a good idea. Now, the last time we did this, who showed up? Jeff and 2 dogs, right?
Sandra.
Sandra.
That's right.
But that's part of the reason why I'm thinking this way. I just don't, I haven't heard peep about this other than that Article 6.
Yeah, well, then again, we sell ourselves on this idea over and over again. I mean, I haven't gone around to any people that I don't know and asked them what they think about changing the fiscal year.
Well, the other thought I was thinking is maybe we could do, we don't have to make this decision till December. Maybe we could send out something on the email list of just a little survey or something, or I don't know. I guess, although I don't really even think we need to do that. I don't think people care, and they still get to vote on when the tax bills are due at town meeting. So I don't know.
I think the only thing they're going to care about is the fact that their taxes are going to be higher this following year. They're going to see a significant, because they're going to be paying, 9 months taxes, twice a year.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that's a communication problem, but
Yeah. I think that's the only thing that's going to, people are going to want to be aware of and plan for.
on the other hand, they're going to get their tax bill in October, and it's going to be less than it would have been normally.
Yeah, true.
So some people are going to say, "Oh, good," until they get the second one.
Owen?
I don't have the numbers directly in front of me on the specific line, but I do feel comfortable looking at the financials and saying, if you all wanted a specific mailer to go out I feel comfortable that we can afford that to folks. And what we would end up doing is just trying to compile as much useful information, this being one of them, in conjunction with the website, the listserv, so that we're hitting both the technologically proficient and the novices, at least by direct mail. So if that's something you all want to be able to have teed up for a decision at your next meeting, we're happy to, provide additional information, a draft on what the communication would look like, and then any sort of, budgetary financial impacts.
I mean, I don't want to turn to more work. I'm not trying to do that, and I feel terrible about even bringing this up. But maybe if we just, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what, as a member of the budget committee, what if Jeff has any thoughts on this. I don't know if anybody else would be, but
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I do think that last warrant article is the only thing that anybody's had anything to say about. I think a mailing will help because it needs to emphasize that we'd really like your feedback on this. This is something we can do on our own, but we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to weigh in on it before we implement it. But our intention is to implement it. And I agree. It's something that is due. We need to get it done. It is the best thing for the town, and I think 90% of the people out there understand that.
yeah, I don't want to put it off.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah,
No, I don't either.
So I don't know. Maybe the best thing is we just dump Article 6 and have the special town meeting. I really am torn. I don't know.
All I'll say is, as far as the mailer goes, if we were, building information from the ground up, it might be a more difficult task for the office. But the board's written memos, FAQs, draft warrants. There's a lot of existing information. It would be grabbing that information, just putting it into a good format. So I'm not really concerned about additional.
It's got to be tweaked. It's got to be tweaked because there's things in the FAQ that say, for example, the board is hesitant to do this without endorsement from the town.
right.
Yeah, I mean, what I would do is I would do an initial pass and punt it to you all to have this communication from the board the way that you want it to be received.
Yeah, and you're going to be losing Chelsea tomorrow or Thursday.
I'm glad to do that, John, Walter. I've been working on the warrant and the facts for the last few revisions, so I'd be glad to take a stab at putting it together in kind of a memo format to the town. Let you guys look at it.
I mean, if you guys want, I can live with a town meeting if we dump Article 6.
No.
No,
I just think the virus situation is going to get worse between now and December 8th.
I do too.
And that's just going to, if we thought 42 people were going to come a month ago, that's going to be 2 people by the time we get there. At the rate things are going, and of course, well, I'm not gonna mention that we have had no cases.
and that was my other thought. Where's the validity in a special town meeting that 2 people attend and vote? I mean,
right.
Right.
What does that give you?
Penny?
I think that a mailing should go out whether you have a special town meeting or not, because that's the way you reach everyone. That's your captive audience. So I would hope that a mailing would be done either way.
All right. Well,
Well,
let's
we
work on getting
do our end of the year report, and obviously that there's a mailing that goes out with that annual report.
That'll be very, people don't, I don't disagree with you, Jan, but a lot of people don't go through that. I think if they get a piece of mail, but.
Yeah, no, I just meant that we usually put a newsletter in with the annual report. And
Oh, yes. That would be good. Yeah. But I do think we need to send something out. If we're not gonna do this, we need to get something out on the, to the budget committee and on the email listserv, because we've been telling people there's gonna be a special town meeting. We haven't actually voted on it, but
So you're
We-
talking
we
about
don't
taking out to the budget committee, telling them we're not going to have a special town meeting. Is that
right. That's what I'm thinking, or
Right.
at least at this point, we're considering not. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have to make this decision tonight, correct? We have one more meeting
before it?
before. I mean,
Alright.
and I know I just dropped this on you guys, although I did hint at it the other night.
Jeff?
If you did have the town meeting, where would you hold it?
Fellowship Hall at the Methodist Church. The pastor gave you the go-ahead, right?
But we're still limited to, no more than 50 people. So we didn't want a big turnout.
Right.
Actually, I think that space is limited to 32.
Yeah.
So I guess I would make a motion, we table this to the next meeting. Am I correct, Owen? We can deal with this at the next meeting and still make the warrant?
You can, and you don't have to table it because this is just a general discussion.
Well, or unless you guys are ready to cancel it, to change directions.
We haven't noticed it, so there's nothing. I mean, we've noticed
Yeah,
that there's
I'll hold on, just, I'm negatively disposed, I'm totally in favor of dropping Article 6, no matter what. And I'm leaning towards no town meeting.
Well, I know Owen, we haven't noticed it, but we have told the world of South Thomaston that we're planning on having a special town meeting on whenever it is.
Right.
December 8th.
So,
So I'm just wondering, maybe we're better off if we're not gonna do it and everybody's in agreement, maybe we're better off just to make the decision now. But again, I just dropped this on you guys, so.
So just to color it a little bit, the noticing of the warrant is very simple. You just have to certify it, and then someone drives around and posts it around town.
Yeah.
The mailer is only intensive as far as like stuffing envelopes, or if we do postcards and just getting things printed up. But as long as everything was teed up for your next meeting, any language for a mailer, all the language for the warrant, if everything was prepared, you all could make a decision at your next meeting. And we have, a couple of days to get mailers out, and we can adjust that to be any intent or anything that you want it to be. We do have that time to think about it and to see if the governor offers different guidance, see how the cases are going, et cetera, what the trends are. We have a little bit of time.
Jeff?
And it's not the perfect communication network, but the email survey, the email group that you send all that information to, there's a lot of people on that. And you could put out that after tonight's meeting, the board is seriously considering not having a town meeting and just enacting it. And they're going to make their final decision at the next meeting, which is on such and such a date in November. If you've got any feedback, provide it by the next meeting.
Yeah, I think, I agree with you, Jeff. I think that's a good idea. Although I do think we need to be clear that we're not talking about enacting Article 6.
Yeah, I do agree
I
with
think
that.
when we email, we got to say that well, maybe we should just make a motion to say that we're not going to take up Article 6 this year and kind of get that off the table. If I made that motion,
We should do that.
all right, I'll make that a motion that we drop Article 6 until some future date.
From consideration. I'll second the motion.
All right, pretty straightforward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Audio aye.
Spear, aye.
Right side. I'll take a shot tomorrow morning, add an email to go out to the listserv, and circulate it. And then try to get, everybody's fingerprints on the crime by tomorrow, and then we can get it out. And it'll be something like, in light of the increase in coronavirus cases throughout Maine and Knox County, the board is considering not having a special town meeting. And in fact, at its meeting on November 10th, it dropped Article 6. And then we'll ask for feedback.
Yeah. We might also mention the fact that there's been so little controversy too, or something. I don't know. I'm not trying to wordsmith it, but
Okay,
not
all
controversy.
right.
I'll work on a draft memo too.
I'll tell you something, guys. I don't know about you guys, but I'm losing it.
Yep.
Quick note on the streetlights.
So all the streetlights are up. The only kind of change in that was Jimmy Callick raised to this office that the lighting at the salt and sand shed is extremely inadequate. The light on the pole by the loading dock is completely inoperable. And then the light above the bay doors itself, though flickery over the past, has kind of decided that it wants to spend most of its time in the off position. And so I reached out to Realterm. They're looking at some of the financials on it. Unfortunately, John Tercio took vacation when we first initiated this, so I haven't been able to get back from them. But built into the cost of the project is contingencies that we have not dipped into for any other reason. And so these two lights that I propose doing a change order on for Realterm would fall within the contingency. That's the only reason that I would say yes, go ahead and do it, is if the change of those two lights fell within the contingency allowance. Then that's also, we need to consider the smart controls for that. So it might be without smart controls if that put us over the contingency. It might be with smart controls if that keeps us under. But it was a safety concern. Vehicles navigate around there. A lot of the work that they do
Yeah,
is
I don't think you need smart controls on the bill on the salt and shack. That's just
no,
my-
I mean,
even if it doesn't put you over the budget, I think it's, unless there's no cost associated with the smart control.
yeah, I've asked them to provide me with both, and I emailed with John Tercio yesterday, and he got back to me today saying, I'm sorry, just came off vacation. They're running the numbers, so they should get back to you soon.
Okay.
But other than that, they're basically done. Got some good feedback from it. We'll be getting trained up on how to use the smart controls here in the next couple of weeks. And then I've been putting some feelers out to other department heads. I definitely don't want me to be the only person that knows how to do it. So getting other folks that will stay with the town trained up on that's beneficial as well.
I think we missed item 8D. I'll make a motion to table that if you'd like.
Please.
The only thing I'd like to hear about is the outside lighting on the building. Where are we with that?
Yep, that's all complete. And we've gotten really good feedback from that as well.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to talk more about that, but the lighting is much improved. I'll only say this, you can now actually see at nighttime someone going up to the stump dump gate. Previously, the ambient light was not enough to actually see an individual. It was like car lights is the only reason, but now you can actually see if someone's walking around or fiddling with the stump dump gate.
Okay. I'll second the motion to table the remainder of the maintenance priority discussion.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Spear, aye.
Right side. Okay, we're scheduled out until February. I don't think we need to schedule any future meetings.
Walter, you don't think we need to schedule a meeting regarding the road?
Yeah, I do, but are we dependent upon follow-up from Andrew?
Well, I think he said, didn't he say it was gonna be very quickly or something like that? Or, I mean, I don't know.
He's already communicated some modifications based on the meeting.
If you want to wait till the next meeting, I'm fine with that. I'm just,
The only input that I have is that it seemed like the folks that do operations at Manco Seafood wanted to spend some time with Andrew looking over the site. Adrian Huidonk came in today with a drawn graphic of the one-way Village Road proposal. And so I had said, because he wanted to discuss that with the engineer, I said, there's some possibility that when he goes and talks with Maine Coast, we'd spend a little bit of time and check in with folks. So that's the only thing that I know Andrew and some of the other folks wanted prior to maybe the final revisions, to get just a little more ground proofing. So really that's the only delay is scheduling to get him out there and talk to those folks.
but my concern is, I mean, I think we want to give a good 6-7 days notice to folks. So if we don't decide until the next meeting, you know.
No, that's the, yeah, you're right about that.
That's gonna push it out. I think we at least should maybe pick a couple of dates to see if Andrew's available, even if it's a couple of weeks from now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you all can schedule meetings outside of a meeting like that. That's correct.
But we're here.
Yeah, I think in this case, we should schedule it in a public meeting.
And we're here now. So our next board meeting is the 24th. Do we want to try to do something that same week at Island Road?
How about the 23rd, because the end of the week is Thanksgiving.
Yeah, 23rd's a Monday.
Yep.
Yeah, Monday.
That sounds good. Should we pick a backup date just in case Andrew's not available?
The 30th is a Monday.
A week
That's
later.
Monday after Thanksgiving, though. That's all right. Everybody will be back. Okay?
I'm
23rd
good
and
for-
30th?
I'm good for both.
Okay, me too.
So Owen, you'll check with Andrew and let us know?
Time 6 p.m.
Is there anything to be signed, warrant? Why is it the town office? Owen?
If you wanted to come in on Thursday, we're closed tomorrow for Veterans Day. I posted it on the website and put it on the calendar. But Thursday we would be available, and yes.
And given the late hour, I'll drop my request for an executive session and perhaps we can deal with some of. I'm beat too.
Yeah, we got to skinny these things down and talk less.
So
Yeah.
plan to have it on the 24th, table it till November 24th.
That,
So
what did Jan say? I didn't hear him.
Table
24th.
it until November
Table
24th.
it, yeah.
meeting.
Or if we have a meeting before that or something, but yeah.
All right. Can we have a motion to adjourn
So move.
before John and I both fall off our chairs?
Jeff's yawning.
Well, he's got his rocker. Is there a second?
I seconded.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Audio aye.
Right side.
Your eye.
Thank you to Jeff and Penny for tolerating us for 3.5 hours.
For your tenacity.
I got a lot done. And I get to see the lights now. I haven't been out after dark for quite a while.